until it's already too late. He says that freedom is something that's continuous. You don't understand how great it is while you're in that moment. It's only when it's threatened that you realize that how severe that situation is. So he says that it's something that needs to be reminded in people, the importance of freedom and liberty, and making sure that people don't take it for granted, because, as I was saying, as only when it's threatened is when people begin to realize that it's slipping away.
Well, may freedom continue to ring and never be broken. Thank you so much, Alex. We appreciate your report. You're watching First Edition, only on Newsmax 2. More First Edition after the break. Stay with us.
Hi, folks. We're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
If you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, your favorite attorney has a message for you. Collision, calamity, catastrophe. If you want money, you need an attorney. You need a bulldog. That's why you need to call the number on your screen now. You'll be connected to a legal expert. You got questions? They got answers. These bulldogs will make sure people pay. And if you don't get money, I don't get money. Pick up that phone and make that call now to see what your case could be worth.
800-511-8575.
Attention cancer victims who use the weed killer Roundup. A federal jury unanimously found that Monsanto's popular weed killer Roundup was a substantial factor in causing cancer. You may be entitled to substantial compensation if you or someone you love used Roundup weed killer and were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Call the number on your screen now. The World Health Organization has designated glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup weed killer, a probable human carcinogen. Thousands of agriculture workers and home gardeners may have been exposed to serious health risks by using this product. You may be owed significant compensation from the manufacturer. Call today for a free consultation. If you don't win, you pay nothing. If you or someone you love used Roundup and were diagnosed with cancer, call the number on your screen now. Don't wait. There may be time deadlines to file a claim. Call Guardian Legal Network now.
At 1-800-380-2890. That's 1-800-380-2890.
Whether you're a professional driver or just a fan, vehicle breakdowns are costly.
It started tugging.
It started making some really weird noises. The last thing I remember is just the engine cut out.
If your check engine light comes on tomorrow, the repair could easily cost thousands.
Is that transmission?
It's an exhaust leak.
Broken axles.
But with Endurance, you could never pay out of pocket for a costly repair again.
They covered a $14,000 engine replacement.
I had a seat sensor that went out, $1,400. Endurance paid it.
We got a brand new transmission and we never seen the repair bill.
Use any certified mechanic you want. Just bring your car in and Endurance will pay them direct. All major parts are covered.
What I like about Endurance, they don't play games, there's no middleman. They're a solid company.
If I didn't have Endurance, I would have paid over $7,000 out of pocket to repair my vehicle.
Something is going to break down. Make Endurance pay for it.
With Endurance, your car repair costs go way down, while your car's life expectancy goes way up, allowing you to drive more and pay less.
One claim alone saved me more than $4,000.
I've had 5 claims, and that is $3,500 that I've kept in my pocket.
So, who's going to pay for your next car repair? You or Endurance?
Whether you put 10,000 or 100,000 miles a year on your car, if it's less than 20 years old, Endurance has you covered with unlimited miles. Plus, your plan covers 24/7 roadside assistance anywhere in the country. Call right now to get $300 off any plan, plus a full year of our top-tier elite benefits, a $2,000 value free. And all Endurance plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. But you have to act now.
Call 1-866-971-0194 for a free quote. That's 1-866-971-0194.
On the 81st anniversary of D-Day, we're reminded of the huge sacrifice made by the greatest generation. And they fought for freedom, not only for European countries, but for America and our interests around the world for generations to follow. So what is freedom? Freedom could be described in so many ways, whether it be freedom of speech, freedom of mobility, pursuit of happiness.
Relive treasured and classic Billy Graham moments of the past, Fridays and Saturdays on theDove TV, encouraging and informative.
America. So we must uphold freedom in every way possible.
Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. Welcome to the morning show.
That's a familiar voice. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah.
Perry will be back Monday. I'm here sitting in for him just for one day. As Perry would say, I was wandering the parking lot and you found me.
I opened the door and there you were. It
actually happened, yes.
It did. I left my phone out in the car and I was wandering. I was hopping out there, I opened the door and you were standing outside. It was like,
you startled me.
Please come on in.
And with your crutches and shorts.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
You're revealing a lot here, TMI.
I think they know.
I
know.
All right.
How's it going?
Very well, and welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I had to get caught up on all the headlines. It's so nice to live in the box.
Yeah.
Where you don't have. Well, I still watch the news and I still follow, but to really get into the everything.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, Paulina. We're always kind of in the loop because we have news at our fingertips, so we see it all. But there's a little difference in kind of observing the news and prepping the news to come in here and talk about it. So welcome back. Your feet are back in the fire.
Thank you. Yes. Big shoes to fill, but
yeah.
But here we are. Right. I know today's D-Day.
Well, that's the number one thing. Today is D-Day, honoring those who fought on the beaches of Normandy, France. It's a very historic day, and we'll have a little bit more later on this. It's also, oh goodness, it's National Eyewear Day. Yep, clearly seeing the importance of bringing awareness to eye health and comprehensive eye exams. And you're not even there yet, are you? I mean, you
I wear contacts.
Oh, Oh.
And I do have glasses.
Do you have backups?
For glasses?
Glasses, yeah?
No, that's my problem. I need to get a pair and kind of more of a fashionable so I can wear it out in public. The ones I have, they're old and they're ugly, so I wear it, and those are the days when I run into someone.
Well, it's interesting, too, because glasses, on National Eyewear Day, glasses are a medical device that are a fashion statement.
They are.
So, yeah. I mean,
how many pairs do you have?
I have, I have this and I have a backup. And I have some other older ones that I don't wear anymore that are backups to the backups, but they have old prescriptions in them, and your eyes change. So I rotate between the two, and I have contacts. Yeah. Wow. I ski in my contacts and stuff, and maybe I should have my glasses on. Anyway,
Well, but you wear goggles.
Yeah, I have to wear contacts. So anyway, National Eyewear Day, take care of your eyes. I mean, I don't think we take our eyes for granted, but we're pretty loosey-goosey sometimes about protecting and taking care of, and so be careful out there. And you know what? Go get an eye exam. Also, it's national.
You have to. I mean, every time you want to get another. Your prescription expired. Right. Time for another one.
That is the truth. And then you go in and you do that little thing where you plug your eye and you do all the stuff. And you know what? It seems as though sometimes eye exams are very subjective. You see this better than this? You see this better? What's clearer, this or this?
No.
I don't know. Can you go back to the other one? Wait a minute.
Like you're determining your fate.
I know. It's like, wait a minute, I think I made a mistake. Wait a minute, go back.
It's like a test that you can never pass.
I know. I've wondered about that. But anyway, moving on. I wonder, is this something that where you grew up, did you participate in this? It's National Drive-In Movie Day.
No.
With the big screens.
Well,
and
I know what it is, but
and you put it in your. Yep. Well, it's interesting too, because the drive-in movies have pretty much gone away, and a lot of us kids, my generation, we pretty much grew up in drive-in movies, and one of the things that happened that made drive-in movies so popular was that before drive-ins, movie theaters really didn't allow, or they frowned upon, large families attending a movie. With the kids and the mom and dad and everybody in the movie theater, people are little rockets, but you could pile everybody into the car, into the station wagon. You go to the drive-in, hang the speaker inside there, and you got your own little environment, and so families flocked to movie theater. Absolutely. We grew up in the drive-in movie theater. We thought that was a very special treat.
And were there any dates that you
And then, I remember going to the drive-in movie theater as a little kid with my mom and dad, and I remember going on dates, and also with friends from high school where we'd pile everybody into the trunk.
Oh, yeah.
Trunk. And, there were some movie theaters that was by the car you'd paid, but sometimes it was by the head that was in the car. So we'd pile everybody into the trunk.
Hide them, yeah.
And then roll.
That's before we had seatbelts.
Confession is good for your soul. Yeah, that was before seatbelts, at least before mandatory seatbelts. So anyway, enjoy your fading fast drive-in movie theaters because there aren't many left.
No.
Also, National Gardening Exercise Day. Now, I assume that you're very fit. I assume that you exercise, but do you garden?
I don't exercise,
You
and I don't garden.
Well, struck out twice.
Well, I do hike. I do go on hikes once in a while, at least once a week, maybe twice a week. I try to follow my husband to go on a hike.
All right.
But as far as gardening, I have in the past. I would love to. I admire those who do, but no, just some flowers and plants, but no garden.
And there's a lot of great exercise value in gardening.
Yeah, it's so therapeutic.
Oh.
Just being there, picking weeds and
Do you like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you see the fruit of your labor.
Pam does too. She's a great...
Oh, you guys have a garden?
She's a great gardener, and I'm not.
What's in your garden? What are you growing?
You know what? We've done vegetables and stuff like that, but now she's kind of gotten tired of that. It's too much. She's got too much going on. So she does like flowers and stuff, and then the grandbabies come and they water and they fuss and they do cut and they do stuff. So at least there's something out there that they can play with.
Yeah, yeah, good.
That's what she does now. So enjoy your gardening exercise. Also, National Applesauce Cake Day.
Oh.
It is an American favorite that goes all the way back to the colonial days. And if you're not going to have applesauce cake, then instead you can have a donut because it is National Donut Day.
Another one.
Yeah, another one. And in some places, it's Donut Day just about every single day.
Yeah.
So enjoy that. And one little factoid here, Paulina.
Yes.
And here is one of my favorite apps. It's this one. It goes like this. It's a little bubble wrap.
Oh, wow.
You like that?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? Well, it's Bubble Wrap Day. And did you know that bubble wrap was originally intended as wallpaper?
No.
Yeah.
For like asylum?
No. Oh, that's very funny.
No, but
Bubble wrap was invented in 1957 by engineers Alfred W. Fielding and Mark Chavanez, who sealed two shower curtains together, creating a smattering of air bubbles. You can kind of visualize that, gluing, those curtains together, and you wouldn't be able to get all the air out. Well, they looked at it and they thought, this is pretty cool looking. They thought, let's sell this as wallpaper, and nobody bought it. So they realized their product wasn't good for that, but it could be used as protection in packaging. And they founded the Sealed Air Corporation in 1960. And then when investors showed the product to the folks at IBM, which had just launched its first mass-produced computers, the tech company became their first big bubble wrap client, and Sealed Air still exists today, creating both cryovac food packaging and, they still make bubble wrap.
Wow.
So there you go.
I did not know. But talk about how even if you fail in something, don't stop. Because they didn't stop. They kept going.
You want to know, a version of bubble wrap has gone all the way to Mars. When they started dropping rovers on Mars, what they started doing is they put them in these huge kind of giant bubble wrap containers that when they parachuted down and then they released parachute, they bounced and skipped along the surface until they came to a stop, and then that opened up, and then opened up the little thing and outrolled the rover. So bubble wrap all the way to the Mars.
Yeah,
How about that?
Now we know. All right. Well, looks like it's going to be a nice hot weekend, right, Jerry?
Yeah,
let's hear the weather report.
With continued high pressure over our region, we'll move to the weekend warm and dry. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime highs in the mid-80s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a light north wind. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, mostly sunny with daytime high temperatures in the mid-80s from Salem through Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene, with a calm wind becoming north 5 to 7 miles per hour. Mostly sunny today across central Oregon with afternoon highs near 87 in Prineville, 85 in Bend, and near 83 in Sun River with a low near 49. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 87 and a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny and breezy along the Oregon coast with daytime high temperatures near 70 in Coos Bay and mid-60s for Port Orford and Brookings. In Crescent City, patchy fog, then partly sunny and mid-60s. Sunny and warming up in southern Oregon with daytime highs in the low to mid-90s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland with triple digits this weekend. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with highs in the upper 80s. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the low 90s in Wairika. Sunny and hot in Redding with a high near 100 with more triple digits to follow. Sunny with highs near 97 in Chico and 93 in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, patchy fog, then sunny in upper 70s in Santa Rosa. Becoming sunny with a high in the low 80s in Napa. Becoming sunny and breezy in San Francisco with a high in the upper 60s. And today in San Jose, sunny and low to mid 80s. It's a look at your Friday weather on the Dove.
Oregon as viewed from Roxanne Peak, taking a look to the west and slowly scanning to the south. A little hazy out there, but going to be a lovely day. And no real fire activity going on yet, right?
I haven't heard
anything. Although I'm seeing fire crews up in my neck of the woods. And it's not really the crews, it's like the supervisors. I don't know if they send folks out. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but I see cars or trucks on the road. They're filling up in Shady Cove, and I'm thinking, I don't know where they are. I don't know where they're going, but it seems as though they are ready to go. So anyway, be careful out there because it is fire season, and it's going to be our driest weekend by far and hottest of the year. So hang on there. But okay, now there was a famous New York Yankee baseball player. His name is Yogi Berra. He was a great catcher. He got 10 World Series rings. 10. This guy was fabulous. But he's almost known more for some of his yogiisms, some of the things that he said. And one of the things he said was, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And on a serious note, sometimes we know which one to take, sometimes we don't. But if that fork in the road has a narrow path and a wide path, which one are you going to go on? Well, here, as Billy Graham asks, which road are you on?
Bev Shea was once asked, what do you know about God? He said, I don't know much about God, but what I do know has changed my life. See, you don't have to know everything about God. You don't have to know everything about the Bible. You don't have to be a theologian to come to Christ. Just come like you are. But the thing that I want you to remember is that this host at this banquet said, none of those that refuse my invitation are going to taste of my food. And Jesus is teaching that if you refuse the offer of mercy and grace and love of God in Christ at the cross, and where he rose again from the dead, if you refuse it, there's no more hope for you. None of these which are bidden shall taste of my supper. They're without excuse. And once Dwight L. Moody was invited to speak to 5,000 atheists and agnostics in England. And when he finished, one fellow stood up in the rear and said, I don't believe a word you say. And Moody said, all right, let's find out something here. He said, I want every one of you to say, I will or I won't. I won't receive Christ or I will receive him. I won't or I will. I won't or I will. So one man got up and said, Mr. Moody, today I will receive Christ into my heart. I want to make sure. I'm a good Anglican, but I'm not sure I really know Christ. Another one got up and said, I won't. Another one said, I will, I won't, I will, I won't, I will, I won't, till he had gone through that whole 5,000 crowd. Which are you saying tonight? You've got to say something. You can't be neutral because God won't let you be neutral. You've got to decide one way or the other. Jesus said there's a narrow gate that leads to a narrow road that leads to eternal life. He said there's a broad road that leads to destruction and hell. Which road are you on tonight? And whichever road you're on is your own decision. Christ has provided the way to the narrow road that leads to eternal life.
I love the Billy Graham classics.
Yeah.
And they're so timeless. His preaching is so timeless and true. It's like he's preaching it right now.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many people do choose the road of destruction and hell. It is sometimes an easier path and more appealing. And that's probably why the road is called narrow, but it's a commitment. I wish it was just decide and go and then live your life as is, but you gotta commit. You gotta start making changes.
Amen.
All right, well, let's see what's happening in the headlines. The feud continues. Elon Musk and Trump are going at it. I know you guys have talked about it here on the show. So Elon left the government position, his role, a week ago. Then he started going after Trump, kind of attacking his big, beautiful bill, saying it's filled with pork. Trump was quiet. He didn't say anything for a couple of days, but then he actually did. Someone asked him, okay, what do you think about all this? And Elon's comments. And Trump finally said that he is disappointed with Musk.
Look, I've always liked Elon, and it's always very surprised. You saw the words he had for me, and he hasn't said anything about me that's bad. I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill, because the bill is incredible. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate, because that's billions and billions of dollars, and it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything. And when that was cut, and Congress wanted to cut it, he became a little bit different, and I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
And yes, and then it kind of turned personal.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has made a very controversial statement saying that Trump is in Epstein files, and that's why those are not being released. And Jeffrey Epstein, of course, is an alleged pedophile and sex trafficker. He also, in the most recent move, has retweeted, re-X'd a post that calls for Trump's impeachment. So now the question is, what is behind all this? Was it bound to happen where you get two billionaires together, big egos? What do you take of this whole thing?
You know what? It's interesting that you asked that last question. Did you expect this? Two billionaires, big egos. I looked at them from the very beginning and I thought this could be rocky. Because again, too, in their positions, they're used to speaking their minds. They're used to people listening. They're used to getting their way. And now you get two huge egos like that and you think, is this inevitable? And many people might think, yeah. And I think there's some validity to that. What do you think?
Well, I have a lot of questions. And one of them, putting our conspiracy hats on, is this feud real? Because a lot of, even Dinesh D'Souza, who I respect, came out yesterday saying this looks perfectly staged to release the Epstein files. For the first time, Democrats are saying release the files. And they weren't before, but now that the thing Trump is in it. And I've seen so many hilarious memes where Trump and Musk just sitting there with their phones, just giggling like little girls. Oh, you post this. Now you call me an idiot. And so it's, I don't know. I don't know if it's orchestrated. But we know that news is never just news. They're released at a certain time. They're meant to drop at a certain point in the news cycle to distract us, to point our attention somewhere else. So I don't know what's behind it and why it's happening now. And if someone really is orchestrating this for
That's interesting. I never actually even thought about it in those terms, and yet you could be onto something. Let me ask you this. Okay, now Trump said that Elon was pretty savvy about knowing what was in the bill. And if he was indeed, then he would have known that the tax credit mandates were out for EVs.
Right.
So he might have said something earlier. What do you think of that move, removing the tax credits especially for Tesla? Do you think this was something that Trump should have done, or is that something that should have continued to help promote, environmental issues?
Right. I honestly am not so savvy about the EV mandates or tax cuts. Maybe there's place for them. I honestly don't have an opinion on those. Musk says that he didn't know about the bill. He didn't know about this move. And some say, okay, it's understandable. He did help Trump. He was this big jumping billionaire behind him who helped him get elected, and he's done a lot. I mean, look at what he's done for free speech by buying X. We would never hear about Trump's assassination or any of those if it wasn't for Musk. So his contribution, and through Doge too. And then he gets this kind of response where his company his company got hurt because people were attacking Teslas.
Oh yeah.
So he went through hell being with Trump. Then he leaves, and EV tax cuts get put out. Whatever happens. So some say, it wasn't nice of Trump to do, or of the Republicans to do. But again, you think that he probably would have expected that. And I just find it weird, and the timing is weird, and really, are you really going to ruin your relationship over this one thing? I don't know.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. But as far as the tax credits are concerned, I think a lot of people thought that perhaps that wasn't equitable in the first place, in the sense that the government is trying to move us towards, these environmental protections in EVs and some of the clean air measures that they're taking. So they're giving tax credits. The government is behind a lot of these things. But I think there's an element of people who think, you know what, these things need to happen by the marketplace, that they have to compete on a free and open marketplace. You don't get tax credits for buying a diesel, you don't get credits for buying an EV, you don't. Let them compete, and then we'll see if they really can, because we know there are some downfalls to EVs in the sense that if you're going anywhere, especially any distances, you really got to plan it out, because it's not like anything else, any other kind of driving experience you're going to have. So I understand people's
the logic behind it.
About getting rid of the tax credits, but so I don't know.
But if you go down that road, you're gonna. I mean, people get credits for going solar.
True.
I mean, why?
Well, because the government wants us to move towards these clean air measures.
Right,
it's all sponsored by the government, and I think there are a lot of people who say, get out of that. Let these things play out in the free market. So, I can understand it. I think Elon's going to take a hit with the...
well, he is. Tesla is not doing well, but I just find it suspicious that he would go after Trump over this. He was there. He knew this. We knew what this bill is going to be about. But again, a lot goes on behind, so we just don't know what's...
Could this be a conspiracy? I wonder. You touch on something pretty good there.
Well, that's what I do when I'm not here. Listen to conspiracies. Okay, next story. Speaking of being fair and fairness, the Supreme Court delivered a major blow to DEI policies on Thursday, unanimously ruling in favor of a woman who says she was demoted for being heterosexual. The justices struck down a decades-old legal rule that made it harder for white male straight employees to claim workplace discrimination. And this basically said that even if you're a majority, you don't have to have a higher proof to present if you file a discrimination lawsuit. And this case centers on Marlene Ames. She is a longtime Ohio State employee who lost a promotion to a lesbian colleague, and then she was demoted and replaced by a younger gay man. And so she said this was all discrimination. The lower court has dismissed it. now that the Supreme Court unanimously said that she has a case here, and this is what Justice Clarence Thomas said, the courts have wrongly invented rules that unfairly burden majority group plaintiffs and called for a future review of broader discrimination framework. So now the case is heading back to a lower court for further review. But it is a win for those of us who happen to be in a majority. We don't have to.
I think it's interesting too how the court ruled that there were no, there were no dissenters. That says a lot.
Yeah. So, all right, and then China. President Trump talked to President Putin 2 days ago, and then he talks to the president of China yesterday. They spoke on the phone for the first time since Trump's second term began, marking a major reset in U.S.-China relations. The 90-minute call focused on trade and rare earth minerals, nothing about other issues like Russia and Ukraine or Iran, for example. But both leaders agreed to resume talks, and then sounds like Trump is now planning a trip to China. So this is a big news too. But kind of going back to the story we talked about earlier, you know what China and us went through in the last month with the tariffs, and back and forth. And now they're buddies again. So Musk and Trump can make up in a day, you know.
That is a very good point, Polina.
You go at each other, but then one phone call and you can
Let me ask you this.
sort
Do you
things
know
out.
any idea what the relationship right now is between Trump and Putin?
I think they're professional. You know, they're talking.
All right.
I think Trump respects Putin and Putin respects Trump.
Yeah, they seem to have had a good relationship in the past.
Yeah.
Obviously, a little bit at odds with what's going on.
Yeah, I think Trump is frustrated with how the ceasefire is being dragged, and you know, both sides keep breaking promises. But I mean, you guys talked about it yesterday. Putin said that we are going to respond to the attacks.
Yeah.
And,
well, at least with
and
Trump,
then we'll talk about peace.
Well, at least with Trump, we don't have any auto pen issues, do we?
We don't, but we did. And more and more news and reports are coming out now that President Biden is not in the office. So in his final days, in case you didn't know, he signed over 1,500 pardons.
Oh, did he really?
But now we find out that only one was signed by hand. Actually, he sat down or lay down and signed it. Hunter Biden is the one who got the official pardon from his dad directly. Everything else, Fauci, Mark Milley, Biden family members, all those criminals who got pardoned, auto pen. And that's a device that, you know, kind of like DigiSign, you know, when you sign your documents online. So now President Trump is demanding an investigation accusing Biden's aides of using the auto pen to hide his cognitive decline and misuse of presidential power. And interesting, this is not just a new revelation. Back in January, House Speaker Mike Johnson talked about it, and this a clip from his interview a few months ago where he said that even then, Biden was not in a loop of what was going on.
And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. You know, this is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, you know, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, you know. And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, like, you know, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? Like, I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
Who was running the country? Any guesses? Jill?
Was it Jill? Yeah. Well, it's been speculated she is probably the most powerful first lady in history. Yeah, we'll see.
She'll have to answer for that one day.
Yeah.
For all the But was his staff authorized to use AutoPen? You know, all these questions. And it's interesting how so many people are now coming out with books and memoirs of how Biden wasn't capable.
Well, that is an interesting point, Paulina, because now we see guys like Jake Tapper who are, carrying the water for the Democrat Party and shielding and doing everything they could. In fact, Laura Trump is still looking for a public apology from Jake Tapper because of what he said on the air when she brought these points up. Now they're all writing these books, cashing in on what we already knew and what they denied. But I guess there is a whole audience for them that this is fresh material, Democrats, because they refuse to take any of it. So,
Yep. All right, well, coming up, Democrats are trying to bring men back into the party. We'll talk about that after the break.
Co-op, where big ideas grow.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
How can Christian parents train their kids to know and follow God's design for sexuality in a culture that increasingly rejects it?
Join us as we uncover the damaging misinformation being fed to your children on sexuality and gender identity, and learn effective strategies for grounding them in biblical truth with confidence and grace.
Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. It'll be encouraging and informative.
Well, the Democrat Party is struggling to bring men back into the party.
Yeah.
They're taking a hard look why they're losing young male voters specifically, and early findings are sobering. I don't know if you guys talked about it, but there is a new group now, Speaking with American Men. It's backed by a $20 million study, and they've held focus groups, surveys, and found that many young men feel left out, misunderstood, and disconnected from the Democratic Party. I don't know why we needed 20 million to find that out. But they described Democrats as weak and scripted, while Republicans came off as confident and direct. Many said that they feel stuck, financially anxious, confused about modern masculinity, and frustrated by cultural double standards. Now, in 2024 election, only 46% of young men voted for Kamala Harris. Still feel a little too high, but it's actually lower than in previous years. And figures like Donald Trump and controversial influencer, actually like Tate, were favorites among some Democrats because they do prefer stronger, more confident men.
Yeah.
Again, very interesting that the party is spending so much money to figure out and find out how to bring men back. The strategists say that the party needs to speak to young men using their language, go to the gyms, go to podcasts, and just get them where they are. Brian Kilmeade, who is a Fox News anchor and author, says that only if Democrats become real, they have a chance to bring in men back.
This is so backwards. Dems say, I want to get men, I want to get younger men, I want to win them over, so I'm going to go find them. I want to find the next Joe Rogan. I want to find the next Greg Gutfeld. Where do I go to do that? What happens is no one found Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan was Joe Rogan, looked and made his own judgment. Went to the gym in his case. Most cases, you want to have control of your life, so you go to the gym. So Dems want to go mimic that, but there's nothing authentic about it. You got to be real. You got to be yourself. The one thing about Trump, he's himself. Always. Is he a conservative? Sometimes. Is he open to ideas? Yes, sometimes. But what he wants to do is be successful. And what Dems want to do is get votes. Just be yourself. That's why you end up with Tim Walz pretending to fix a car and pretending to go hunting. It's not real.
Interesting.
So, by definition, then, there is no place for real men in the party that is so fake.
Well, they have attacked what they have called toxic masculinity for years, and now they put out a candidate like Tim Walz, who, after the election, said that his masculinity scared Republicans. It's like, no, I think your lack of masculinity scared Republicans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. A lot of it is scripted, and it's all for show.
Well, and you're right, too, how for years, white males, straight males, Christian males have been attacked, and now they're saying, oh, please come back. We'll, do X, Y, Z. We'll support fitness and gym and physical masculinity, so please come back. Because they are facing a crisis, for example, of who is their leader.
Right. And
who is going to, and I don't know if you can answer this question. I'm going to put you on the spot, but who is the most masculine Democrat of them all right now?
Is there one? That's good. That's a really great question. I'm at a loss.
And I'm not everyone has to.
Dylan Mulvaney.
Right. No, not everyone has to go to the gym. You don't have to be buff to be masculine. But you should be a man. You should provide. You should defend. Like you can be a ballet dancer, very gracious.
Yes,
and all that, but still be a man, and I think that's what.
Isn't it interesting that Democrats are trying to connect now with young men, where they're the ones that are promoting men competing against women?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you guys got to get this straightened out. You got to figure it out. And
that's a good point. Identity politics until you don't need it anymore. Then now there are two genders.
Oh, that is great. You got it right. Absolutely.
All right.
What do you think about the weather?
Oh, I love this weather.
Okay, let's take a look.
Let's
take a look at satellite and see what's coming our way. Today, upper 80s, but boy, it's going to be sunny and warm through the weekend, and there's a lot of severe clear out there over the Pacific Ocean. We're looking at mid-90s tomorrow and upper 90s here in the Rogue Valley on Sunday and Monday before it starts dropping back down on Tuesday, and by mid to later in the week, we're going to be bumping right back down into the 70s. So just a momentary spike, but it is previews of coming attractions because summertime is right around the corner and we're going to get more of it. Coming up, we're going to get more of the news and more mornings on the Dove.
From top home sellers in the Valley with John L. Scott.
To making RV consignment effortless.
American RV, where Team Toner gets your RV sold fast.
Go where the wild runs deep. At Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, you feel the power of the mighty Rogue River as you take in the sights and sounds of nature, journey through Hellgate Canyon, and adventure through the breathtaking wilderness. Enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, and end your adventure with our exciting jetboat spins. It's a memory in the making with family and friends. Book your adventure at Hellgate.com. Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
Spring is around the corner and summer is on its way. With fire danger biting at its heels, flammable blackberries and underbrush will grow like gangbusters and sprout fire danger in no time. A wise property owner knows the best time to take care of fire danger is to extinguish it before it gets started. GMV Forestry LLC can help you protect your property with adequate fire brush clearing to fireproof a zone around your precious property. With over 35 years experience, GMV Forestry LLC has the knowledge, experience, and all the equipment you need to get the job done right, offering a wide variety of services like mulching, field mowing, snow removal, driveway clearing, ditch cleaning, gravel delivery and spreading, driveway sweeping, logging, and more. GMV Forestry LLC does it all, and they do it right. GMV Forestry LLC, the team you can trust. 541-660-6445. 541-660-6445.
Welcome back. Happy Friday. Well, so that you don't feel like your morning is going too smoothly, we're going to give you a bunch of news right now. There's a lot going on in the Middle East, and we're so grateful for CBN News for providing updates for us every day, and let's turn to them right now.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch on this Friday, June 6th. We've got lots to get to in this half hour. We're going to begin in the Middle East, where Israel is turning to an unlikely source for help in defeating Hamas in Gaza. This comes as Iranian nuclear talks continue and Israel strikes Hezbollah UAV production and storage facilities in Lebanon. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more now. She's reporting from Jerusalem.
Israel has been arming a family clan, sometimes called a militia, in Gaza in order to strengthen opposition to Hamas. Israeli opposition leader Avigdor Lieberman leaked that information to Israeli media, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not deny the report.
On the advice of security officials, we activated clans in Gaza that oppose Hamas. What's wrong with this? This is only good and saves the lives of IDF soldiers. The publication of this only benefits Hamas, but Lieberman doesn't care.
The group, led by Yasser Abu Shabab, has been documented operating in an area near the Kerem Shalom border crossing that is under Israeli military control and where aid trucks enter Gaza. It has about 300 members, which Hamas sees as a thorn in its flesh. That report comes as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has closed all of its aid distribution sites in Gaza for now, saying they will be reopened later. The sites were closed after shootings near the aid locations earlier this week. Meanwhile, Israel has assured the U.S. it will not strike Iran's nuclear facilities unless President Trump makes it clear that negotiations with Iran have failed, according to Axios. But in another sign that Iran is building up its military program, the Wall Street Journal reports Iran has ordered material from China for hundreds of ballistic missiles. President Trump says he cautioned Netanyahu not to launch an attack on Iran while talks are ongoing. But Trump also said his stand could change with a phone call if talks with Iran aren't making progress. In another show of U.S. support for Israel, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced sanctions against 4 judges on the International Criminal Court, saying they are directly involved in The Hague's efforts to prosecute Israeli and U.S. nationals for alleged war crimes in Gaza. The decision follows Hungary's earlier move to withdraw from the ICC rather than arrest Netanyahu when he came to visit.
If you check the voting records at the UN General Assembly, you will find just a few countries from Europe opposing every and each anti-Israeli, anti-Zionist resolution. Hungary is among those countries.
And in Lebanon, Israel warned Lebanese civilians to leave specific areas before it struck Hezbollah drone production sites and storage facilities in Beirut and southern Lebanon used by the Hezbollah aerial unit. The IDF says Hezbollah has launched more than 1,000 explosive and reconnaissance UAVs at Israel since the beginning of the war. The IDF says Hezbollah is working to produce thousands of drones, under the direction and funding of Iranian terrorists as part of Iran's efforts to harm the State of Israel. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Continuing our coverage in the Middle East is our bureau chief now, Chris Mitchell, joining us. So, Chris, what more can you tell us about the clan in Gaza that opposes Hamas?
Well, we did report on that a few days ago. They issued a historic declaration, and for the first time, somebody in Gaza, a group in Gaza, openly declared, they said, enough is enough. Hamas has brought ruin and blood to us, and it no longer represents us. And they hold Hamas fully responsible for all the devastation going on in Gaza. They've been vetted, obviously, by Israeli security agency. They're called the Shin Bet and the IDF. And so the goals, Ephraim, would be to aid in the fight against Hamas, actually improve security around those distribution sites. They have been armed by the IDF with actually weapons captured from Hamas. So these are Israeli allies working on the ground with Israel. And apparently they are not ideologically driven like Hamas. So after the war with Hamas is over, they might be allies that could work with the IDF and Israel going forward.
Yeah, a lot going on. And I'm sure on Monday, the news cycle is going to be completely refreshed.
But boy, am I glad we get CBN. I get so many comments about folks that you say, it's the only way I'm keeping up with what's going on in the Middle East. So
it is hard to digest sometimes.
I'm glad we can get it.
All right, well, let's turn to Jerry to digest our weather.
With continued high pressure over our region, we'll move to the weekend warm and dry. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime highs in the mid-80s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a light north wind. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, mostly sunny with daytime high temperatures in the mid-80s from Salem through Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene, with a calm wind becoming north 5 to 7 miles per hour. Mostly sunny today across central Oregon with afternoon highs near 87 in Prineville, 85 in Bend, and near 83 in Sun River with a low near 49. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 87 and a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny and breezy along the Oregon coast with daytime high temperatures near 70 in Coos Bay and mid-60s for Port Orford and Brookings. In Crescent City, patchy fog, then partly sunny and mid-60s. Sunny and warming up in southern Oregon with daytime highs in the low to mid-90s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland with triple digits this weekend. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with highs in the upper 80s. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the low 90s in Wairika. Sunny and hot in Redding with a high near 100 with more triple digits to follow. Sunny with highs near 97 in Chico and 93 in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, patchy fog, then sunny in upper 70s in Santa Rosa, becoming sunny with a high in the low 80s in Napa, becoming sunny and breezy in San Francisco with a high in the upper 60s, and today in San Jose, sunny and low to mid 80s. It's a look at your Friday weather on the Dove.
All right, there is our chambered commerce shot. Beautiful shot of the Rogue Valley, looking off to the west and sliding to the south. But you can see, Paulina, things are starting to dry out a little bit more brown.
It's not as great. So we're somewhere there, right?
Yeah, we're a little bit to the right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but especially with that brown, we are in fire season, so be careful out there. Okay, political drama. There is no shortage of it these days, but there has been no shortage of it during any days during our history. And you know what? When we look at presidential candidates, a lot of people hang their hat on the guy who is perceived to be the most handsome.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's the best looking well, a guy who has been called by some the most handsome president of them all was the only president who was a sitting president that failed to get his party's nomination to run for a second term, and it happened on this day in history.
On June 6, 1856, in Cincinnati, Ohio, the air inside the Democratic National Convention was thick with tension and transformation. It was the fifth and final day, and history was about to be made. For the first time, a sitting elected president, Franklin Pierce, was denied his party's nomination for a second term. Pierce had entered office with hope, but left with controversy. At the heart of his political undoing was the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. Championed by Pierce, the act repealed the Missouri Compromise and opened new territories to the possibility of slavery, unleashing a wave of violence and division known as Bleeding Kansas. His party fractured, moderates recoiled, abolitionists were outraged, and Southern support alone could not save him. Instead, the convention turned to a safer bet, James Buchanan, a seasoned diplomat with no strong ties to the domestic turmoil. He would go on to win the presidency, while Pierce faded into political obscurity, a stark reminder of how swiftly power can slip away when the nation's conscience is tested.
How about that? Anyway, Harry Truman said that Pierce was the most handsome president of them all until Harry became president.
I wonder if there is that kind of sense of competition. I mean, it's a very exclusive club, you know, only a few men ever in the history of this country get to be a president. I wonder if they do have that kind of sense. Am I more handsome than the others?
Yeah, I wonder if Donald thinks about that at all. Our current president.
But you have to also admit that being handsome is not just physical appearance.
Well, that's
the character
true.
behind.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know, sometimes you look at someone, you're like, you know, he's not really handsome, but attractive still because of the charisma and the character.
One of the things that seems to go with The Office is some drama.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, well, today is also D-Day, as we mentioned earlier, and before we go to break, we wanted to share a reflection, a story from a survivor who shares his memory from that day.
And I saw this kid with a radio on his back, and I said, ha, there's my savior. And I started to walk down towards him, probably maybe 25 or 30 yards. And he was coming up at me. We were probably separated by maybe 40 yards of land. And there was an overhead burst took place. It hit him, and it cut his arm off, and it destroyed the damn radio. And I went down to him, and a medic was with me. And we tried to pull him up, but his arm had been severed completely, and the kid died. And it's still, right now, I see this kid. This was the first one I'd ever seen ever getting killed. I don't know who he was from. I never knew what his name was or anything. But the medic and myself pulled him up. As we started to pull him up, another shell burst, and I caught mine in my left leg. And the medic also got hit in his arm, but we still managed to pull him up to the berm, and we hid under the berm. And that's where I spent the night, in the berm, okay? And that was it. That was my D-Day.
The right cleaning company matters. Choose Dust Plus Cleaning and Carpet Care, a family-owned company proudly serving Grants Pass and nearby communities for over 25 years. We're passionate about delivering the best, whether it's carpets, using purified water for no window spots, or carefully washing solar panels. We're committed to superb customer service from start to finish. Radiant spaces from local professionals. Request a free quote today.
Hi, I'm the SOS Alarm guy, here to tell you about a great deal. SOS Alarm will not only beat any internet deal, but will install the system too. So burglars, beware. SOS Alarm for security and beyond.
Tackling the tough issues facing America and our nation's freedom. That's Sekalo on the Dove TV.
DAs around the country finding who they want to prosecute.
A bold half hour hosted by ACLJ's Jordan and Logan Sekalo, taking you inside the battle of constitutional and political freedom, discussing issues that matter to you and your family.
No one that should or want to run for president will end up running for president.
Be in the know with Sekalo on the Dove TV.
Welcome back. Well, the big, beautiful bill is causing a big controversy with Musk and Trump going at each other, partially because of the bill, but now some other things are coming into this dispute, or some call war. Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report played this clip of House Speaker Mike Johnson talking about Elon's reaction to Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Look, let me just address the Elon controversy and tell you that I consider Elon a friend. He's obviously brilliant. I just told you we credit him with all the big changes with Doge and everything else. It's curious to me what happened this week, and full disclosure, Elon and I had a great conversation, about a half-hour long talk on Monday this week, Monday morning, and we talked about the big beautiful bill, because I think he was trying to make a joke a couple of days earlier. It can't be big and beautiful, and I started the conversation. Oh yes, it can, my friend. It's very beautiful. So we talked about all the record level of savings. My friends, no government in the history of mankind has ever cut $1.6 trillion in a piece of legislation. We're doing that here. The extraordinary level of savings and the historic level of tax cuts at the same time, and all these great policy prescriptions. And I talked to Elon through all that and explained to him what we're doing, and that this is just the beginning of a long process of making government more efficient and effective, of cutting wasteful spending, fraud, and abuse. And you can't do it all in one bill. It took Congress decades to get to this situation. The Biden administration, Biden-Harris, made such a disaster of every metric of public policy, it's going to take us more than one bill to fix it all. Elon and I left on a great note. We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposes the bill. And it surprised me, frankly. And I don't take it personal. We don't take it personal. Policy differences are not personal. I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately. I'm very consistent in that. But am I concerned about the effect of this on the midterms? I'm not. Let me tell you why. Because when the big, beautiful bill is done and signed into law, every single American is going to do better. Well, I tell you, I called Elon last night and he didn't answer, but I hope to talk to him today. I talk to President Trump, all the time, multiple times a day. Obviously, we've talked about this. As you know, he's not delighted that Elon did a 180 on that.
He's not delighted, to put it mildly. Well, see, I have a feeling that when you guys come back here on Monday, you're going to have like a almost 180 thing to discuss. You never know what's going to happen over the weekend and behind closed doors, and if these guys or their representatives are actually talking.
Yeah, well, he made a good point there too. I think part of this is that Elon doesn't have the patience at the speed of government. He's a businessman. When he wants stuff done, he wants it done now.
And Trump is too, but now Trump is in government, so he has to play by some of those rules.
Yeah,
and appease the parties.
Okay, we have a verse as we leave today on this Friday morning. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10, it says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." So lean on him. He can hold you and everything that's going on in your life.
And have a wonderful weekend.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian owned and operated, pet friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Welcome to Rise Direct Primary Care. Imagine a healthcare experience where you're known by name, cared for like family, and treated with compassion. How is that possible? With an affordable, flat monthly membership, you receive unlimited primary care and minor urgent care visits. No insurance needed. At Rise Direct Primary Care, we offer a friendly, affordable healthcare experience where you get a whole hour with your provider. Located in Central Medford and accessible by phone or text, we can typically get you in the same or next day. We prescribe urgent care medications directly from our office, saving you a trip and wait time at the pharmacy when you'd rather be at home getting better. Personalized medical care with a human touch. Rise Direct Primary Care is all about healing the sick with compassion and keeping the healthy healthy. Rise Direct Primary Care. We're here for you. Visit risehealthdpc.com or call or text us 541-827-8603. 541-827-8603.
Co-op, where big ideas grow.
Cliff Connectley travels across America to give an answer to questions, doubts, and challenges concerning faith.
So one of the reasons I believe that God exists.
Join him for Give Me an Answer, weekdays on theDove TV. Go behind closed doors to witness biblical counseling with real people. Transformed, Monday and Thursday on theDove TV, encouraging and informative.
And thank you for joining us. Paulina and Jerry here. This morning, it's the weekend. It's Friday.
Yeah.
We made it. The weather is beautiful, and Perry will be back Monday.
Yes, he will.
Yes.
But you're a familiar voice and a vision in front of us. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
being here. And again, thank you for sitting in while I was not sitting.
When you were
when I was laying down. So,
oh my gosh.
we really appreciate that.
The ordeal you went through.
Oh, yeah. And unfortunately,
I'm glad that you're feeling better.
it ain't done yet. But yeah, at least the worst is behind me. So
Yes.
but I'm so glad you're here. All
What
right.
are we celebrating today?
Well, we have a number of
commemorating?
things going. First of all, it's D-Day.
Yes.
So we honor those who fought on the beaches of Normandy, France. It's a historical day and a reminder of what Allied troops went through to get a toehold back into Europe and start pushing towards Berlin, and we have more on this later. Also, it is National Eyewear Day. A medical device that has evolved into a fashion statement.
It really has.
And
yes.
oh my gosh, yeah. And
I think for some people, probably women especially, it's almost like replaces the need to do any kind of eye makeup.
Oh.
Because it does add some, like if you don't put any mascara or whatever else we put on our face, but you throw some nice glasses, kind of pops and makes your eye look bigger and better.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're absolutely right. It's a fashion statement these days, and you can get all kinds of eyeglasses.
Yep, and I only wear them because I can't see without them. But it's interesting too because eyeglasses are kind of like other elements of fashion these days, like hair lengths and clothing. It seems as though we live in a day and an age when almost anything goes. You got people who got really, really short hair and people who are still down on their shoulders, guys. Women's fashions as well. It's a mixed bag. And we see the same thing with eyewear. You see everything from the rimless all the way around to big, heavy plastic, that are making big, bold statements.
And when they came, I believe, we'd kind of joke that it's like a Portland glasses, Portland look, that kind of weirdo.
Right, yeah.
But these days, the weirder you are, the better, almost, and it's not weird anymore.
The slogan, keep it weird, Portland.
Yep.
But
we're doing great.
So anyway, take care of your eyes. It's National Eyewear Day. Also National Drive-In Movie Day, something that you never got to experience growing up, huh?
We didn't have the movies, didn't have the cars. Can't have the drive-in movie theater.
We had them both, and boy, did we have them in spades. And it makes a lot of sense because drive-in movie theaters kind of evolved with the idea that in regular walk-in movie theaters, they didn't cater to big families. In fact, sometimes a little bit frowned upon if you came in with your family, and especially little kids are a little disruptive at times. And then came along drive-in movie theaters. You could load the whole family into your station wagon, Or maybe throw the kids in the back of the pickup.
But did you watch the movie? Did you then like put a blanket on the ground, or did you watch from the car?
Sometimes, both. Sometimes,
I mean, if the car is loaded, you can't really see well.
And sometimes we'd sit up on the hood of the car even and do that. But and then depend on what what it was like outside too. But we can all remember those little speakers, with the cord you put into your car. Hopefully everybody remembered to take them out when you drove away.
Like at the gas station, if you forget the.
And then I remember as getting older, like in high school and going into college, we still had drive-in theaters. But then they were getting the frequency of a radio station in your car, and so you could turn on the movie in your radio, and then you could hear the audio for the movie in your car that way.
There was still audio outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those speakers, all those speakers had sound, so we had stuff going on out there. But drive-in movie theaters. I think there were a lot of romances carried on in drive-in movie theaters. Moving on, National Gardening Exercise Day. Exercise is good in any form, but gardening exercise is really good because you're getting something green done,
right?
And you're staying fit all at the same time.
This is the best form of exercise when you're doing something you love and you are exercising. And if you like dancing and then you dance, but it's an exercise.
Yeah.
Same with the gardening.
Well, there are health benefits to gardening, and it's not just eating what you garden.
Exactly.
It's the activities doing it. So enjoy your gardening exercise day. It's also National Applesauce Cake Day. It is an American favorite from colonial days, and I can't say that I'm, really big on it. I don't know that I've really had it much.
I don't think. That was a surprise for me when you said it's an American favorite. I'm like, where have I been?
Applesauce cake. But we know this is an American favorite because it's National Donut Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the first Friday in June, people participate in National Donut Day, celebrating a delicious donut, and it honors the Salvation Army Lassies. And in case you didn't know, the Salvation Army Lassies are the women who served donuts to soldiers during World War I. So that's why we celebrate Donut Day. But, some places it's Donut Day every day, and sometimes even here.
Well, speaking of Salvation Army, let me just mention there is an urgent food drive going on here locally in Jackson County. If you want any more information, you can go on the Salvation Army website. But throughout the months of June, the dental office here in Medford, Jake Layer Dental, will be collecting canned goods and shelf-stable food to support the Salvation Army Emergency Food Pantry, and they will be giving anyone who brings anything of value like $20 and more, they'll give you a teeth whitening kit. So
really?
Yeah, so there's a little benefit if you want your teeth whitened.
All right.
Salvation Army Food Drive, and that is with Jake Layer Dental here in Medford.
That's pretty cool.
Back to you.
On Donut Day,
teeth
cleaning. All right, it's a good idea. Hey, did you know, and we all love bubble wrap, and it's one of my favorite things to squeeze. It's very tactile. It's a wonderful deal. But bubble wrap was originally invented as wallpaper.
I did not know that.
It was invented in 1957 by engineers Alfred Fielding and Mark Chavanez, and they sealed two shower curtains together. And when they put the shower curtains together, it created a smattering of air bubbles throughout. And they initially tried to sell it as wallpaper, and guess what? Nobody bought it. So when that didn't work out, they realized their product could be used for protection in packaging, and they founded Sealed Air Corporation in 1960 when the inventors showed the product to IBM, which had just launched its first mass-produced computers. The tech company became their first big bubble wrap client. Sealed Air still exists today, creating both cryovac food packaging, and they still make bubble wrap.
Amazing story. My question is,
what?
Why did they want to seal the two shower curtains?
You know what? What goes through inventors' minds that make them do, who knows what they were trying to do.
And do we want to know?
I got it. Yeah. Hey, I got
This guy takes a shower and
idea. Let's glue 2 shower curtains together and see what we get.
But look what happened though, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it led to an amazing invention.
It's gone all the way to Mars. When they send rovers up to Mars, they put them in these giant bubble wrap containers and they parachute them down and they bounce. They drop the parachute and they bounce and they skip and they roll across the surface of the planet, and then they settle to a stop, and then it all deflates. They open it up, and out emerges out of the cocoon a beautiful butterfly.
That's what it sounds like.
It's a rover.
I wonder if the families are still getting royalties or some kind of a patent, kickbacks.
Yeah.
For the fact that everyone uses bubble wrap these days. Right. Well, the weather is interesting and it's beautiful. So let's take a look at our weekend forecast.
With continued high pressure over our region, we'll move to the weekend warm and dry. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime highs in the mid-80s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a light north wind. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, mostly sunny with daytime high temperatures in the mid-80s from Salem through Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene, with a calm wind becoming north 5 to 7 miles per hour. Mostly sunny today across central Oregon with afternoon highs near 87 in Prineville, 85 in Bend, and near 83 in Sun River with a low near 49. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 87 and a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny and breezy along the Oregon coast with daytime high temperatures near 70 in Coos Bay and mid-60s for Port Orford and Brookings. In Crescent City, patchy fog, then partly sunny and mid-60s. Sunny and warming up in southern Oregon with daytime highs in the low to mid-90s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland with triple digits this weekend. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with highs in the upper 80s. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the low 90s in Wairika. Sunny and hot in Redding with a high near 100 with more triple digits to follow. Sunny with highs near 97 in Chico and 93 in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, patchy fog, then sunny in upper 70s in Santa Rosa, becoming sunny with a high in the low 80s in Napa, becoming sunny and breezy in San Francisco with a high in the upper 60s, and today in San Jose, sunny and low to mid 80s. It's a look at your Friday weather on the Dove.
It's beautiful outside. You know, one of my revelations this morning was it's light at 5 o'clock.
Boy, isn't it amazing?
I'm usually nice and cozy under my blankets. I came out of my room into the living room and I thought the light was on, but then I look and it's from the window.
Yep. And still, even though it's getting lighter and lighter, I'm still seeing Venus rising over in the east. When I get up, and by the time I get to work, I can hardly find it anymore because it has gotten so light out there. But again, it's going to be a lovely Friday, warming up for the weekend. So especially because we are in fire danger, be careful out there. But now, time for a little encouragement with the Reverend Billy Graham for you on this Friday morning. He has a very big question.
But the scripture says, for we dare not make ourselves of the number or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise. God condemns the hypocrites. Yes, but that's no excuse for you. No excuse for you. No excuse for you. Because every church that I have ever been to has got some hypocrites in it. Every church. If you find a perfect church, absolutely perfect, and you join it, it'll become imperfect. Because we're all imperfect. And then there are people that'll say, well, I'll have to give up too much if I come to Christ. Well, you give up a great deal for other things, such as an education or power or money. Harold Macmillan, the former Prime Minister of England, once said, power is the chief motivation of human activity and not money. Whether it's money, power, social prestige, you'll do most anything. God gave up everything he had. He gave up his son for you. Will you come to Christ tonight and surrender to him? What's your excuse?
That's a good question, yeah.
But it also is a serious decision. I think some people take it a little too lightly, thinking, okay, I'll just stay in my ways, no change necessary.
It's interesting how the Spirit moves in people too, though, Paulina. I know people that have come to the Lord when they heard the truth of the gospel the first time. It's like, yeah, that's for me. And then other people just kind of inch their way. Sometimes not even inching, just kind of sitting there. But the Holy Spirit starts to work.
I was going to say, God is there with them. Yeah, and He's working. All right, well, let's take a look at our headlines this morning. And of course, the big story remains on all news platforms, the feud between Musk and Trump. Elon Musk has been attacking the big, beautiful bill for a few days now, saying that it's an abomination and it's filled with pork. And then he said that MAGA and Trump would not have won the election without him. And then he made some other personal attacks. But let me first play for you what President Trump said in response. And basically he said, I'm very disappointed in my former friend, Elon.
Look, I've always liked Elon, and it's always very surprised. You saw the words he had for me, and he hasn't said anything about me that's bad. I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill, because the bill is incredible. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate, because that's billions and billions of dollars, and it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything. And when that was cut, and Congress wanted to cut it, he became a little bit different, and I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody, and he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
Wow.
And he was right. And next, Elon said that Trump is in Epstein files, and that's why those are not being released. And not only that, he retweeted a post that called for Trump's impeachment, basically theoretically supporting it. Now, I brought this up last hour. Dinesh D'Souza, who is an author and a producer, a conservative, he made an interesting allegation, and I've heard it in other circles as well. This was his question. Is this some sort of a perverse scheme to force the release of the Epstein files? Because right now the Democrats are saying, release the files. And Dinesh is saying, how great would it be to have a horde of bad guys publicly exposed? Elon would say, told you I could get Democrats to scream for that list. And then Trump and Elon break out the champagne.
Well, you know what?
You never know what's going on
honestly,
behind this news.
There could be something to that, because we know Democrats don't or haven't wanted that list exposed because it's filled with Democrat names and some very prominent people. What a way to get them behind releasing.
So it would be interesting. One thing, I was following this feud between two guys a couple of months ago, two billionaires. I'm not going to go into their story, but I was watching them. They were really close. They were working together, and then suddenly they're on podcasts. They're accusing each other. They're lawyering up. There's a class action going on, and I'm just going, oh my gosh, I like them both, and what do we do? And then the next day, I see a picture of them hugging and a headline. Sometimes you just need to communicate. They met. They discussed everything. The lawsuits are dropped. Everything is good. And I just wonder, with these guys having huge egos and used to having these fights, not private negotiations, but public fights, fist fights, if that's what it'll take, just a phone call saying, look, dude, this is not doing you or me any good. Your company is tanking, speaking of Tesla, and let's work together. Because Musk has done a lot for this country with Doge and with X. So it would be a waste to lose that influence that
and I think that he was an influence in helping Donald Trump get elected president. And I think a lot of people on the right have taken great delight in seeing the left become apoplectic over Elon Musk and, you know, the fact that he used to be a Democrat and he turned. But so this is interesting. We'll watch this develop, won't we? Yeah.
Yes. In other news, the Supreme Court delivered a major blow to DEI policies on Thursday. Unanimously, the court ruled in favor of a woman who says she was demoted for being heterosexual. The justices struck down a decade-old legal rule that made it harder for white male or straight employees to claim workplace discrimination. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the opinion saying the law protects individuals equally, regardless of group identity. So now the case for this specific woman, Marlene Ames, is going to head back to the lower court for further review. But it is interesting that it was a 9-0 decision on something that has been pretty controversial. But the bottom line, members of majority groups, like we are, don't have to meet higher burden of proof when bringing a discrimination suit.
Yeah, and this is, I think it speaks volumes that the fact that this was a unanimous decision. And we know that in our country, we're pretty split on DEI policies. There's an element that really is behind it. They think this is the way to go.
And you would have almost, like, I would expect, you know, Keegan or Sotomayor, one of those would go against this one, but no. They all agreed.
You know, I think that there's some basic right and wrong that you just can't.
We get into that, common sense.
Bucket, you know? Yeah.
The return of common sense.
Yeah.
All right. And then President Trump talked to the is he a president of China, Xi? Or
what is his official title?
Well, anyway,
the leader.
The leader of China. They spoke by phone for 90 minutes. Their call focused on trade and rare earth minerals, with both leaders agreeing to resume talks and exchange visits. Trump called the call very productive, saying the two sides have cleared up key disputes. And this comes, of course, after recent tensions over export delays and new United States tech restrictions, also all this tariff stuff going on. China confirmed the call and urged the United States to lift trade restrictions. Xi also warned Washington to handle the Taiwan issue carefully. But so far, markets have reacted positively, and Trump says more progress is on the way.
Okay. Well, you know, I wonder how the tariffs and all of this affects the Chinese company Temu. Have you ordered anything through Temu?
No, but I've seen some hilarious videos of people ordering something, and
it's crazy.
Completely not what you ordered.
I mean, it's like, but I gotta say this.
Have you?
No, I've never ordered anything through Temu. Temu got me on an algorithm once. I was looking at something and Temu started sending me stuff and I started getting interested. I thought, wow, what is this? And Pam was looking at you saying, this is junk, Jerry. This is nothing but junk.
Well,
but there are a lot of people buying it in this country.
Yeah, well, and I've also seen that it's a lot of, you know, child labor and all that stuff.
Well,
so
that's what associated with labor laws in China.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and finally, Autopan. That's the word we've been hearing a lot. Turns out that President Biden did not sign all his orders and pardons using his own handwriting, but used the device called Autopan. And a recent report reveals that out of 1,500 pardons signed before Biden left office, only one was signed by hand, and that was for his son, Hunter Biden. The rest, including pardons for Fauci, Milley, Biden family members, they were all signed using Autopan. President Trump is demanding an investigation, and people are coming up saying that's been going on. Back in January, Speaker Johnson said that even then he noticed that Biden was not in a loop of what's going on.
And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? Like, I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Who is running the country? Who was?
Yeah, I think that was the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. So who was running the auto pen? Was it Jill?
Or the aides?
Or the aides at the behest of Jill?
Any one of those mouthpieces like Elizabeth Warren or
and
isn't it
interesting that he thought Hunter Biden's pardon was so important that one he had to sign? When he said over and over again he would not pardon Hunter.
Or maybe it was, I'm totally speculating, no sources here. Jill said, okay, all the other pardons can eventually be canceled out because it's out of pen, we know that. But I really don't want Hunter to be
that's interesting.
Canceled out. So here's Joe, let me prop you up.
Okay,
Sign this one.
All right.
And he did.
Wow, okay.
We'll see. I mean, it is frustrating because you find these things out when it's too late. You know, for 4 years we're told it's fine, he's capable, he's the strongest he's ever been. And then when he's out of the office, we're learning all these things. And I wish we'd known them. We had known them.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a little too late, but it's still good to know the truth.
Yep, I agree.
And the truth will set you free.
Amen.
All right, we're going to take a break and then we'll talk about men and the Democratic Party.
Our God is a lion, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles.
Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? When you want surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life, call State Farm agent Rory Wold in Medford today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You feel most alive where you feel most at home. And this is living. Bobcat, the company that changed the way the world works, is coming home with a quality compact tractor built to match your quality of life. This isn't work you have to do. It's work you get to do. So get it done in a tractor that's all you. See your dealer or visit bobcat.com.
Big ideas grow.
Hey, it's your old car here. Remember me? Remember us? You barely even turn me on anymore. It's clear you don't need me, but that's perfectly fine, my friend, because you can choose to give this old car new purpose and donate. There are incredible nonprofits out there that accept cars just like me. So call or donate online. Donating a vehicle is easy, the pickup is free, and your gift is tax-deductible.
Well, do we need a study to find out why young men are leaving the Democratic Party? Some think so.
I don't either.
Yeah, well, some do think so. Democrats are taking a hard look at why they're losing young male voters. And the early findings are, well, not surprising. A group called Speaking with American Men, backed by $20 million of funding, held focus groups and surveys and found that many young men felt left out, misunderstood, and disconnected from the Democratic Party. They described Democrats as weak and scripted, while Republicans came off as confident and direct. The research says that Democratic strategists now suggest that the party, if it wants to reconnect, needs to speak to young men in their language, especially on platforms like YouTube, X, gaming podcasts. Maybe go to the gyms, maybe find men there, talk to them about, I don't know what, somehow persuade them into going back. Brian Kilmeade, who is an anchor and a Fox News contributor, talked about this on Gutfeld, and he says, you know, the only way the Democrats can bring men back is if they become authentic.
This is so backwards. Dems say, I want to get men, I want to get younger men, I want to win them over, so I'm going to go find them. I want to find the next Joe Rogan, I want to find the next Greg Gutfeld. Where do I go to do that? What happens is, no one found Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan was Joe Rogan, looked and made his own judgment. Went to the gym in his case. Most cases, you want to have control of your life, so you go to the gym. So Dems want to go mimic that, but there's nothing authentic about it. You got to be real. You got to be yourself. The one thing about Trump, he's himself. Oh, is he a conservative? Sometimes. Is he open to ideas? Yes, sometimes. But what he wants to do is be successful. And what Dems want to do is get votes. Just be yourself. That's why you end up with Tim Walz pretending to fix a car and pretending to go hunting. It's not real.
It's not. And as a man, what advice would you give to this party?
Well, you know what? He hit it on the nose. You have to be authentic. And it's interesting because this is the party that is confused about what a man is, what a woman is. They're the party that is pushing men competing against women in sports. We heard from Tim Walz himself that in post-election interviews that the Republican Party was intimidated and afraid of his masculinity. And so I think that it does boil down to authenticity. Are you going to be real? I've also seen an article recently, and I've seen this to be the case because I saw the clips with it. We can't play it here, but one of the ways that they want to identify and try lure in a younger vote and a younger male vote is by speaking in profanities. They're swearing in their speeches now. And they think that is a winning way to bring people in. They think that this somehow gives an air of authenticity to what they say. And all it is, it's just profane.
This is interesting to compare to what Trump did last year. Because if you remember, with the help of his son, Barron, he went through a lot of podcasts and talked to the audience. And I watched some of those, and the kicker is he was himself. He didn't come dressed in baggy pants and just looking cool and using foul language. He was dressed nicely in his suit. Nothing visually different about him. He didn't pretend not to be himself. He spoke the same way. He cracked jokes. He probably joked more and maybe weaved more. But at the same time, he was his own self, and I think it resonated with young men and young women.
It's interesting you said that because Barron Trump was instrumental in getting him to do the long format podcast. Also, J.D. Vance did really well in it. And of course, Kamala could not show up. She couldn't do it. Now, we heard it said that Democrats are looking for the next Joe Rogan. You know what Joe Rogan said about that?
What?
You had me.
Oh.
I was a Democrat.
So it's about the content and the authenticity and being real. Because you look at some of the people you probably have in your life that you like, adore, or just love being in their presence. It's not about physical appearance or even how they vote. I have some wonderful Democrat friends that I just love being because they're real. They're not faking it. There is some real reasoning why they are who they are. We disagree, but they're that, and I love it. And I think that's what we're missing in our culture is real people. All right, let's take a look at the stocks now. The market report is actually looking good. Stocks jumped on Friday after the latest job report, and Dow is up over 500 points. NASDAQ is also up to 40 points, and S&P up almost 70 points. And looking at the commodities, we'll see if they're also in the red or green. Gold is down 33. Wow, still high though, right? 3,300. Silver is up to $36.25, and crude oil is up to 46. But it's funny, last time I was on the show, it was like in the 80s. So again, up but up but down, $64 a barrel.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting though, because we see such a discrepancy from state to state on gas prices. And you know, it boils down to what your state's digging you for. And obviously we're getting dug on the left coast quite a bit. So, but
do you still love your diesel?
I got diesel car and I got diesel truck.
Oh, really? Both?
Yeah, both. Yeah, I'm dirty diesel all the way. And so
no tax cuts for you, my friend.
No, I like it because you know there are some advantages to it. There are some disadvantages as well, because diesel is less refined than unleaded, but for some reason sometimes it costs more. So I don't know. All right, do you think we have time for this?
Let's go to break.
Okay, let's do that. We got all kinds of great stuff, including CBN News, coming up on Mornings on the Dove. I like.
Your yard is where life happens, but it can be muddy and hard to maintain. Enjoy a maintenance-free artificial turf lawn all year round with Smart Lawn LLC. No mowing, no fertilizing, no watering. Our synthetic grass is beautiful and resilient. It's certified to be lead-free and there's no need for pesticides. Safe for your children and pets. Smart Lawn LLC has all your artificial turf and putting green areas covered beautifully. 541-941-3538. Chris Silva understands your home and your commercial buildings are two of the largest investments most people make in a lifetime. One is for your family, the other is to support your family financially. That is why Chris Silva Painting goes the extra mile to protect both homes and commercial buildings with proper painting preparation and high-quality primers and paints. Serving Southern Oregon since 2006, this family-owned and operated business has painted over 1,000 homes. Chris Silva Painting offers an industry-leading 5-year warranty that covers materials and labor on all painting projects work for both residential and commercial buildings, both interior and exterior painting. Chris and his crew are courteous, they are efficient, organized, timely, and clean. Chris Silva Painting also offers military discounts. At Chris Silva Painting, our mission statement is to bring Christ's heart and principles to our customers and our job sites. We do that with honesty, integrity, and hard work. We don't cut corners, we paint them. CCB number 176097. Chris Silva Painting, 541-890-3960.
How can Christian parents train their kids to know and follow God's design for sexuality in a culture that increasingly rejects it?
Join us as we uncover the damaging misinformation being fed to your children on sexuality and gender identity, and learn effective strategies for grounding them in biblical truth with confidence and grace.
Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. It'll be encouraging and informative.
Good morning and welcome back to the show. Well, let's take a look at what's happening in the Middle East and return to our friends at CBN News.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch on this Friday, June 6th. We've got lots to get to in this half hour. We're going to begin in the Middle East, where Israel is turning to an unlikely source for help in defeating Hamas in Gaza. This comes as Iranian nuclear talks continue and Israel strikes Hezbollah UAV production and storage facilities in Lebanon. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more now. She's reporting from Jerusalem.
Israel has been arming a family clan, sometimes called a militia, in Gaza in order to strengthen opposition to Hamas. Israeli opposition leader Avigdor Lieberman leaked that information to Israeli media, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not deny the report.
On the advice of security officials, we activated clans in Gaza that oppose Hamas. What's wrong with this? This is only good and saves the lives of IDF soldiers. The publication of this only benefits Hamas, but Lieberman doesn't care.
The group, led by Yasser Abu Shabab, has been documented operating in an area near the Kerem Shalom border crossing that is under Israeli military control and where aid trucks enter Gaza. It has about 300 members, which Hamas sees as a thorn in its flesh. That report comes as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has closed all of its aid distribution sites in Gaza for now, saying they will be reopened later. The sites were closed after shootings near the aid locations earlier this week. Meanwhile, Israel has assured the U.S. it will not strike Iran's nuclear facilities unless President Trump makes it clear that negotiations with Iran have failed, according to Axios. But in another sign that Iran is building up its military program, the Wall Street Journal reports Iran has ordered material from China for hundreds of ballistic missiles. President Trump says he cautioned Netanyahu not to launch an attack on Iran while talks are ongoing. But Trump also said his stand could change with a phone call if talks with Iran aren't making progress. In another show of U.S. support for Israel, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced sanctions against 4 judges on the International Criminal Court, saying they are directly involved in The Hague's efforts to prosecute Israeli and U.S. nationals for alleged war crimes in Gaza. The decision follows Hungary's earlier move to withdraw from the ICC rather than arrest Netanyahu when he came to visit.
If you check the voting records at the UN General Assembly, you will find just a few countries from Europe opposing every and each anti-Israeli, anti-Zionist resolution. Hungary is among those countries.
And in Lebanon, Israel warned Lebanese civilians to leave specific areas before it struck Hezbollah drone production sites and storage facilities in Beirut and southern Lebanon used by the Hezbollah aerial unit. The IDF says Hezbollah has launched more than 1,000 explosive and reconnaissance UAVs at Israel since the beginning of the war. The IDF says Hezbollah is working to produce thousands of drones under the direction and funding of Iranian terrorists as part of Iran's efforts to harm the state of Israel. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Continuing our coverage in the Middle East is our bureau chief now, Chris Mitchell, joining us. So, Chris, what more can you tell us about the clan in Gaza that opposes Hamas?
Well, we did report on that a few days ago. They issued a historic declaration, and for the first time, somebody in Gaza, a group in Gaza, openly declared, they said, enough is enough. Hamas has brought ruin and blood to us, and it no longer represents us. And they hold Hamas fully responsible for all the devastation going on in Gaza. They've been vetted, obviously, by Israeli security agency. They're called the Shin Bet and the IDF. And so the goals, Ephraim, would be to aid in the fight against Hamas, actually improve security around those distribution sites. They have been armed by the IDF with actually weapons captured from Hamas. So these are Israeli allies working on the ground with Israel. And apparently they are not ideologically driven like Hamas. So after the war with Hamas is over, they might be allies that could work with the IDF and Israel going forward.
And that's the latest from that part of the world that has so much going on.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at weather, and this is...
No, you were?
I was. And this is probably the only period in our life where our weather is the same as the weather in Siberia.
No kidding.
Because, you know, I'm looking at it's nighttime there, so it's 56, but during the day it's going to be 65, 70, 82. So yeah.
Wow, what's the hottest you've had when you were growing up in Siberia?
It would probably be in the 90s. I'll have to translate in my mind because it's Celsius.
Celsius, yeah, right.
But it's very short. You know, you get that short window, June, July, and then in August it starts getting colder. September you get rains, October you get snow.
And Celsius starts freezing as 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
You know, one that makes sense?
Yeah, because I watch a lot of these outdoor shows, and a lot of them, you know, they drop people in Canada and up in the Arctic stuff, and they're always given the temperature in Celsius. I'm like, trying to figure it out. Okay, how cold is it really? It sounds really cold, but okay.
It is. Well, I can tell you that the coldest I've experienced is minus 58 Fahrenheit.
Ooh.
So, and usually it's about minus 50, but sometimes it did get that cold. It's been colder where I'm from.
Well, guess what? It's not going to be anything like that this weekend.
Thank
it's
God.
going to warm up, and here is a look at our weather.
With continued high pressure over our region, we'll move to the weekend warm and dry. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime highs in the mid-80s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a light north wind. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, mostly sunny with daytime high temperatures in the mid-80s from Salem through Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene, with a calm wind becoming north 5 to 7 miles per hour. Mostly sunny today across central Oregon with afternoon highs near 87 in Prineville, 85 in Bend, and near 83 in Sun River with a low near 49. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 87 and a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny and breezy along the Oregon coast with daytime high temperatures near 70 in Coos Bay and mid-60s for Port Orford and Brookings. In Crescent City, patchy fog, then partly sunny and mid-60s. Sunny and warming up in southern Oregon with daytime highs in the low to mid-90s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland with triple digits this weekend. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with highs in the upper 80s. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the low 90s in Wairika. Sunny and hot in Redding with a high near 100 with more triple digits to follow. Sunny with highs near 97 in Chico and 93 in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, patchy fog, then sunny in upper 70s in Santa Rosa, becoming sunny with a high in the low 80s in Napa, becoming sunny and breezy in San Francisco with a high in the upper 60s, and today in San Jose, sunny and low to mid 80s. It's a look at your Friday weather on the Dove.
Oregon from the top of Roxy Ann Peak, looking a little bit to the west and sliding up
What's
to the
that
north.
thing?
And that's an antenna.
Oh,
That's a
there's
broadcast train, because that's where we're sitting here, yeah. But straight out there, that's about where we are. The airport's out there.
Yeah.
So we are looking at our backyard. This is home, and enjoy the look at it. But while political drama in our country, we have no shortage of it, and we've never had any shortage of it. A couple things. You know, when you have a sitting president of the United States, he's called the incumbent, and incumbents have a lot of power, and they have a big tendency to get reelected. And especially if you're trying to get the nomination from your party, it almost never happens that you are turned away. But it happened on this day in history.
On June 6, 1856, in Cincinnati, Ohio, the air inside the Democratic National Convention was thick with tension and transformation. It was the fifth and final day, and history was about to be made. For the first time, a sitting elected president, Franklin Pierce, was denied his party's nomination for a second term. Pierce had entered office with hope, but left with controversy. At the heart of his political undoing was the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. Championed by Pierce, the act repealed the Missouri Compromise and opened new territories to the possibility of slavery, unleashing a wave of violence and division known as Bleeding Kansas. His party fractured, moderates recoiled, abolitionists were outraged, and Southern support alone could not save him. Instead, the convention turned to a safer bet, James Buchanan, a seasoned diplomat with no strong ties to the domestic turmoil. He would go on to win the presidency, while Pierce faded into political obscurity, a stark reminder of how swiftly power can slip away when the nation's conscience is tested.
Interesting. Harry Truman said that Pierce was the most handsome of all the presidents until Harry Truman became president. But that's quite a combination. I mean, you're the sitting president of the United States. You don't even get your party's nomination to run again.
Yeah, not even a nomination.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've seen recent developments
where we had some one-term president.
Right, and no primaries, no.
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah. Become a nomination without a nomination.
Yeah, how about that?
All right, well, today is the D-Day, and we commemorate this historic day. How many years now?
Oh, gosh.
What year was it? 40? I'm horrible at history.
Yeah,
I'm going to look it up and subtract. Well, no, we're not going to come back. Hold on.
Well,
D-Day. No, what an embarrassment. 44.
44,
so it's
yeah. June 6, 44, yeah.
81 year ago.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right,
well,
good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Redeemed ourselves, kind of, sort of. Cut that out of the show. Don't air it again. A survivor from D-Day is sharing his memory on Omaha Beach, and here's just a clip of that.
I had two stragglers. They didn't want to die, so they thought by staying with me, they'd be safe. Unfortunately, by staying with me, they were drawing fire from the hills. The first guy got hit, ripped his stomach open. Fortunately, he lived. This guy lived. And the other guy that was 2 feet away from me, he was a red-headed kid. The machine gun took his helmet off, and part of his brain, a part of it. And he was crying, "Help me, help me, help me." I had no morphine. I couldn't help him. So he fell at my feet, and he was crying, help me, help me, help me. I had nothing in my kit to help him. So the only thing I had was the Lord's Prayer. And I started praying, Our Father who art in heaven. I never finished it. And he slumped down. Yeah, I knew he was going to die. And I reached down, and I squeezed his hand. I want him to know that he wasn't alone. Then he died. He died. He was just a little boy. Just a little boy.
From top home sellers in the Valley with John L. Scott.
To making RV consignment effortless.
American RV, where Team Toner gets your RV sold fast.
Since 1987, Four Seasons Nursery has been the gold standard in the green industry here in Southern Oregon. Tim Elbert and his friendly staff continue to offer the best plants and most accurate knowledge to create your dream landscape. At Four Seasons Nursery on Crater Lake Avenue, you can let your imagination run wild with a huge selection of all things plant and gardening for both inside and outside beautification. Whether it's a flower for your window seal, one of our beautifully renowned signature hanging baskets, or a complete landscape design for your entire property, Four Seasons Nursery can help you every step of the way with design services, workshops, and more. Let your imagination run wild as you immerse yourself in their nursery filled with beauty that knows no bounds. Four Seasons Nursery, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 1/2 mile north of Vilas Road, 541-779-5603, 541-779-5603.
At Sweet Tea Express, we've got you covered. Order at the counter and our friendly service staff will do the rest. Burgers, salads, sandwiches, barbecue platters, sides, and more. Smoked, grilled, and served to perfection. Sweet Tea Express. Breakfast, burgers, and barbecue.
Romans 1:20 tells us God's power is revealed in creation. Yet 2 Corinthians 4:4 reminds us that Satan has blinded many to the gospel. At the Life Outdoors, we've seen the truth of God, His eternal power and divine nature displayed in every mountain and stream. Follow along and let's wake the wild within. The mountains don't lie. Where there's truth, there's Jesus.
Good morning. Well, let's talk a little more about the big, beautiful bill, who has become a big problem and a huge headline with all the feud going on between Musk and Trump. Speaker Mike Johnson talked about Elon's reaction to Trump's big, beautiful bill. Here's his comments.
Look, let me just address the Elon controversy and tell you that I consider Elon a friend. He's obviously brilliant. I just told you we credit him with all the big changes with Doge and everything else. It's curious to me what happened this week. And full disclosure, Elon and I had a great conversation, about a half-hour-long talk on Monday this week, Monday morning. And we talked about the big, beautiful bill, because I think he was trying to make a joke a couple of days earlier. It can't be big and beautiful. And I started the conversation, oh, yes, it can, my friend. It's very beautiful. So we talked about all the record level of savings. My friends, no government in the history of mankind has ever cut $1.6 trillion in a piece of legislation. We're doing that here. I mean, the extraordinary level of savings and the historic level of tax cuts at the same time, and all these great policy prescriptions. And I talked to Elon through all that and explained to him what we're doing, and that this is just the beginning of a long process of making government more efficient and effective, of cutting wasteful spending, fraud, and abuse. And you can't do it all in one bill. It took Congress decades to get to this situation. The Biden administration, Biden-Harris, made such a disaster of every metric of public policy, it's going to take us more than one bill to fix it all. Elon and I left on a great note. We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposes the bill. And it surprised me, frankly. And I don't take it personal. We don't take it personal. Policy differences are not personal. I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately. I'm very consistent in that. But am I concerned about the effect of this on the midterms? I'm not. Let me tell you why. Because when the big, beautiful bill is done and signed into law, every single American is going to do better. Well, I'll tell you, I called Elon last night and he didn't answer, but I hope to talk to him today. I talked to President Trump, all the time, multiple times a day. Obviously, we've talked about this. As you know, he's not he's not delighted that Elon did a 180 on that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting tensions building.
Yes,
from within.
and some. I mean, it sounds like it's over those EV tax cuts, but
Do you think that's the crux of it?
I mean, I can understand why Musk would be upset, but I find it's hard for me to believe that after everything they've been through and all the access that Musk did have to government documents, and he was in that, he probably knew at least that it's coming.
Yeah.
That now that he's not part of the government, he just turned so fast and just over this one thing. I know it's a big thing for him, but still, it's just makes me wonder what else is out there, why they're feuding.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like.
Well, two big successful egos working together.
They're providing news for us to talk about.
That could be a rocky road.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is kind of cute. We need to near our end on a lighter note. And here's a dog story about. This is more than a dog story. This is a dog and a pig story. And when I find a story with dogs and pigs in it, I can't resist.
A clever blue heeler, or what we know as an Australian cattle dog named Teeter, has been caught on video teaching her pig sister Matilda how to use the doggy door. Their owners shared the adorable moment on social media, writing, "Teeter the blue heeler is one smart cookie. She knows Matilda isn't supposed to be inside, yet she teaches her to come through the doggy door." The video shows Teeter and Matilda on the patio when Teeter goes through the doggy door into the house. Matilda the pig looks interested but can't quite figure it out. Teeter, undeterred, comes back out the doggy door and seemingly tries to coax Matilda through the door. After a couple of times, she succeeds, and both dog, then the pig, go through the door and into the house.
Oh, how cute.
Do you have any pets?
We have a dog, yes.
Okay, yeah. Do you have a doggy door?
No.
Oh, okay.
It would have to be a big one.
Yeah.
It would be like a door inside a door.
Cut half your door down and put the doggy door in. But this is...
Do you? Do you have a doggy door?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because you have big dogs too.
Yeah, we have big dogs too, and they don't
come
get in the doggy door.
They don't knock, they just come.
I kind of have a kitty door. I kind of open the door and let the kitty cat in, and but then I have to make sure the kitty cat leaves. But this was interesting too, because that dog, it's an Australian cattle dog. They are really smart. But I hear that pigs are smart.
Yeah.
But that pig seemed to be, take a lead from the dog really quite well. I was shocked.
Like the way the animals interact, and when you put them, in the right environment and they learn from each other, it is pretty fascinating to see how nature and the world works. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that pig was awfully cute with the spots.
And do you know anybody with pet pigs? I know that people do pet pigs.
No. I'm trying to think, because I know my sister, they have a lot of animals. They have dogs, cats, snakes,
Okay.
I know some people here who have, a farm, and you'll have ducks and goats and rabbits and pigs.
Farm animals.
Yeah, so they're farm animals, but when you have kids and they bring them in, so that kind of becomes almost like a pet.
Yeah.
But I don't know how a pig would do as a pet.
I think?
Would they sleep with you? Like a pet?
I don't know. And I think that pet was really cute, and you're not going to be happy with me, but whenever I see pigs, I just think of bacon. It's like, and I'm hungry anyway right now, so, bacon seems like a good thing.
I love you, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you, Paulina.
And I do love bacon, but I don't think of those two when I see a cute little pig.
Yeah, okay, well, all right. Time for us to move towards the weekend. I hope you have great plans. You have a chance to get out there, enjoy the weekend, but be careful. It's going to be hot out there. And we have a parting verse for you this morning from Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. It says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand."
Amen.
Take that with you.
Life has many challenges. When you need answers, theDove.us is here with encouragement, videos, news, and information to restore, renew, and point you to what matters most. Turn to theDove.us. Encouraging and informative.
Live the adventure with Hellgate Jetboat Excursions. Discover your wild side in the heart of the Pacific Northwest with Hellgate's high-speed spins, stunning Rogue River scenery, and incredible wildlife sightings. It's an experience like no other. Plus, you can enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, a place where families connect, friends unite, and the river brings it all to life. Visit Hellgate.com to book your adventure. Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
Stewardship begins with the knowledge that nothing belongs to us, but everything belongs to the Lord. This helps us to run a business not in the fear of lack, but in the assurance of His care and provision. Such a perspective eliminates the drive to sell and replaces it with a heart that says serve. This begins with serving our clients and coworkers with integrity and genuine care. That's why at Kelly's, it's automotive service with a heart for God, and treating others as we ourselves would want to be treated. Our promise is to never sell our clients anything we don't believe they need. Another is to do all we can to meet other needs, such as shuttle service and loaner cars, or taking the time to really listen, even at times praying with our customers. Sometimes this means sacrifice, going above and beyond. But that's why I work for Kelly's Automotive Service, honoring God while serving people with honesty and integrity.
Put your gold in an envelope, mail it. Hopefully you get a check. Nah. Father and son jewelry, bring your gold in, we weigh it, we check it, we make you the offer.
Or turn your something old into something new. Whether it's an idea, a picture, or a piece you want to duplicate, we can melt it down and make it for you.
If you find your perfect piece in store, trade your something old for something new, and you always get a little extra.
Visit Father and Son Jewelry, 5 generations of family in Medford.
Drinking and doing drugs helped me numb the pain. And the pain brought so much desperation. I was afraid I would lose my family every day of that affair.
So many times I was ready. I was ready to pack up and go. I said no more. God, you could figure it out later, but I'm getting out of this house. And that's not what God wanted for me.
Watch the 700 Club Friday morning at 11 on the Dove TV.
Would you like to know your faith better? Then join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. It'll be encouraging and informative.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. It's been a while since we've had our guest today, George Carneal. His testimony is amazing, and I certainly invite you to check it out. He's a speaker and the author of a book called From Queer to Christ. There's a picture of the book. His journey into light. He was raised by a Southern Baptist minister, really in an ultra-conservative Bible Belt area. However, George spent 25 years immersed in the homosexual lifestyle, and he's now really quite the ambassador for Christ. You can go to georgecarneal.com, that's CARNEAL.com, and there's the picture of his website. George, good to see you again, friend. How are you?
I'm fine, Perry. Good to see you as well, and thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for your time. It's been a while. People where can they get your book? Because your testimony and your story, your journey is just so encouraging. Where can people get a copy of that?
They can get it on Amazon. It's at other locations as well, and they can get that information from my website, georgecarneal.com.
Okay. By the way, being raised in a conservative home, being immersed in that lifestyle for 25 years, how long has it been now since you've been out of that?
About 18 years. I've been living a celibate life for Christ for about 18 years now. Okay. Praise God.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your boldness. I think all of us, George, are having a hard time getting our head around this whole thing called transgender. It's an amazing movement in this country, and yet the amount of people caught up in it are like, what, 0.002% or something like that. It's a really small amount, but yet they seem to be controlling the culture. How do you describe this phenomenon that's happened to us?
First of all, it wouldn't have gotten this far had we had not had gutless politicians and corporations who just acquiesce to this small minority, which unfortunately they've been given a large platform to be very vocal while silencing those of us who operate on planet Earth and with reality, and that you can't change your gender. And the reason we've gotten this far is, Perry, as you know, we're dealing with a spiritual battle. There's a far bigger agenda and an agenda behind this LGBT trans agenda as well. There's a reason why they are doing this, and it's really just an assault and an affront to God, and just basically saying to him, you've made mistakes and we're going to correct it. It's really just much deeper than that.
Okay, on that point just a little bit, overall, all of this transgender movement and LGBTQ, this is an affront to God's creation. I mean, that's the bottom line spiritual battle, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. A lot of people, again, I will always reiterate, I know a lot of people out there who consider themselves woke, think they're doing the right thing by affirming this, because the guilt trip that the LGBT activists will leave is that they will kill themselves if you don't support them, especially the transgender individuals. But that's not really the truth. People don't really know what the lifestyle is like and how dangerous and destructive it is, and why there is so much depression and people battling various forms of addiction. If you really look at the suicide rate of the statistics in Western Europe versus those in America, they're pretty comparable in terms of the heterosexuals are the lowest, and then gays and lesbians are next, and then the trans suicide rates are the highest. Perry, as you and I both know, when you are doing something that is in complete rebellion to God, which is what I had to find out, I dealt with suicidal thoughts and attempted to take my life. I was battling depression. It's because when you're in rebellion to God, he's not going to give you any peace. And my heart really goes out for a small minority of the trans individuals who truly need our empathy and compassion, because they've suffered some real childhood trauma. They need Jesus and a good counselor. They don't need to be fast-tracked through a system with the cross-sex hormones and surgeries. The rest of the trans individuals are just narcissistic and doing this for attention.
So how do you look at somebody caught up in this with genuine Christian empathy when mental health is either trying to help them stay in it, or, to your point, it becomes the issue that has to be dealt with?
I can tell you this, Perry, just from my own life and from the numerous testimonies I've heard from other LGBTQ individuals. Those who've left that lifestyle and found Christ and got the right kind of biblical counseling by counselors who really have a heart of Christ and compassion for these individuals, once those root core issues are dealt with, especially the shame, trauma, rejection, abuse on so many levels, healing and wholeness will come. But as long as we keep trying to put a Band-Aid on this by stating, oh, well, you can't talk about it, we're not going to hurt their feelings, we're going to continue to push them down this path, they're really going down a path of destruction. So for the woke Christians who think they're doing the right thing, not only are you pushing every one of us into a world of where they will not find any peace or what they are looking for in that lifestyle, but you're pushing them into further rebellion against God. And this is a detriment to their own soul and where they spend eternity. People have to stop being guilt-tripped with the emotions, but lovingly tell them the truth of God's word. But at the same time, tell them that with the right biblical counseling, the Holy Spirit, with God's help, they can find true healing and wholeness. Sadly, though, you have too many trans individuals who've already had their lives destroyed by this, but thankfully they are speaking out, and many of them are coming to know Christ.
Well, praise the Lord for that. Let me just stay with one of the raw realities here of what's happening with transgenders into male into female sports. The issue of fairness is gone. The issue of protecting women is gone. And the whole issue of testosterone is gone. Is it recoverable?
As long as people look, this has nothing to do with Trump, but as long as people keep voting Democrat, they are the ones pushing these policies. Even after Trump is out of office, whoever's next in office, if people don't like this, but yet you're voting Democrat, don't complain. They are the ones pushing these policies, and that's the only way it's going to change until we can get all Democrats out of all local, city, state, government offices to turn this nightmare around. That's the only way I see it turning around. Unless people in this country, Christians, really, truly repent and we have a true revival in this country and things turn around and God starts moving in this country again.
Do you think there is the seedbed of that revival? In other words, a revival of, it's spiritual, it's all spiritual, but a revival of this is not right. Men acting as women and competing in their sports is just not right. Do you think there is now a revival and a pushback?
I think there is. It's not happening quickly enough, but people are fed up. And it goes for the same for the women who think they're men and they're trying to get into men's locker rooms and bathrooms. That's another issue that people aren't talking about. The boys deserve to have a safe place to change their clothes and not be investigated for sexual harassment when they try to call out a girl who's pretending to be a male. Both boys and girls deserve to have safe places where they can go in and change their clothes and not worry about predators.
How do you think the average parent knows how this agenda has infiltrated public education?
I honestly don't think so, Perry. I think people are so wrapped up in their own lives. They're not paying attention to what their children are doing. They don't pay attention to what they're seeing on their cell phones, the porn, all of the social media influencers on TikTok and Instagram. If I had children, they would not know what Instagram or TikTok is. I would monitor their phone. I would be monitoring their text messages. And Perry, not to really get off the subject, but I want to say this real quickly. A lot of parents don't know this, but even when kids are gaming, there are predators who are going through the gaming sites and they are luring the children into giving them their cell phone numbers, and they will ask them to send nude photos pretending to be a girl or a boy. And if these young teenagers who don't know this are sending these nude photos, then what the predators are doing is they are now blackmailing the kids, trying to get money out of them and extorting them or telling them to commit suicide. And there are a lot of teenagers who are already doing it. And this is something that the media is not covering. Parents need to be very vigilant in terms of what their kids are doing and have these kind of conversations with the children.
Thank you for the warning. How much of the transgender movement and LGBTQ plus movement is a teenage fad?
That's a good question, Perry. I believe it is, and I will tell you why. When we're teenagers, we so desperately want to fit in, and where the LGBT community gets it right is that they accept what we would deem the mutts, the outcasts, the losers, the freaks, the geeks. So when you have young teenagers who are impressionable and they are so desperately looking for a family at school, the LGBT community will welcome them. And I think because many of them feel so validated, then I think they start to get influenced. Well, maybe I'm not a boy, but I'm a girl, or vice versa. Or maybe I'm gay or lesbian. I think there's so much pressure. And I think if the parents would really, truly instill a sense of self-esteem and self-worth in their children, maybe they could bypass this problem. But the Christian community just doesn't seem to have that empathy and compassion. People who are deemed outcast are kind of treated as such, like lepers. I feel sorry for the kids who are growing up in this environment and going to school. But yes, I agree with you. I believe a lot of this is peer pressure.
Okay, to that point, George, it appears to me that in today's culture, which everything is fast track and we silo everything, that we've taken all of this issue, transgender and LGBTQ, and we've siloed into it as being evil. Therefore, we Christians don't even look there. And yet, we will spend multiple millions of dollars to go in and rescue the soul of somebody on death row who committed first-degree murder. Why does that soul have value and this group over here doesn't?
Perry, from personal experience, this was one of the things I talk about in my book, the anger that I had, because when I would hear pastors rail against the perverts, the sodomites, the homosexuals, Sodom and Gomorrah, with such furor, but yet they went a little soft on divorce and on pornography. And abortion, it was kind of middle of the road. It just infuriated me to see the hypocrisy. And I didn't understand, why is it then that they will give classes to divorced individuals, but not to LGBT individuals who are struggling with this issue? And I don't understand the Christian community railing against this community that God loves, and Jesus died for them as well. And God is doing a work in the LGBT community. I can't tell you the number of ex-LGBT individuals who are coming to know Christ and what he has done in my life. So God has not given up on the LGBT community, but yet the Christians want to rail against them. They want to castigate them. They don't want to do anything to try to learn the issues. They don't want to get people like me in the churches and at conferences to give some insight and to some knowledge of really what's happening in that agenda, in that community, and how to best witness to them and how to help them. But yet they just want to rail and complain about it. But then when the LGBT individuals walk into the church so desperate to get help, they fall back into the lifestyle, because the LGBT community will turn on any LGBT individual who gives their life to Christ. So you lose that family, which is what happened to me. But yet you go into a church setting where people don't know what to do with you. It's a very lonely and frustrating road.
Okay, I'm going to take an early break because I want to come back and deal with that issue. How should, if you walked into our church today and sat down as a gay person, and what do we do? What do we do? I mean, it's as simple as, what do we do? Do we make you a member? Do we work on your conversion? What do we do? So let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, this is an amazing story, and it's really inspiring. His book is called From Queer to Christ, My Journey into the Light. There's a picture of the cover of the book available on Amazon by George Carneal. That's also his website, georgecarneal.com. We'll be right back.
Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
Black Flag Armory offers top brand affordable rifles, shotguns, handguns, and gear. We also offer an array of classes emphasizing safety, self-defense, and accuracy. We strive to provide the absolute best possible experience when buying a firearm. Family friendly for every skill level. Black Flag Armory in Medford and Grants Pass. Online at blackflagarms.com or 541-499-0779. 541-499-0779.
What if your next ride was more than just a ride?
What if it was an epic adventure filled with unforgettable memories?
At Panoramic Moto Tours, we take you beyond the ordinary, offering curated routes, privately guided with all the details handled.
Our passion is to share the joy of riding incredible roads, exploring new sights and towns, and connecting with others and sharing our stories.
Sound good to you?
What are you waiting for? Let's create your custom tour, or join us on one of our upcoming tours.
The Lost Coast and Trinity Alps, May 16th through the 19th, or the Oregon Coast and Cascades Tour, June 22nd through the 26th. Just click the Tours tab at panoramicmototours.com or call 541-622-3844.
panoramicmototours.com. Your next adventure starts here.
If you enjoy the Dove, help spread the word. Tell someone who needs the love of Jesus about the Dove TV. If they can't receive a signal, the Dove streams worldwide on Roku and Apple TV, plus online at theDove.us. Spread the word.
Okay, welcome back, and delighted to have back with us George Carneal. He's a speaker and an author, and his book is very inspiring, From Queer to Christ, My Journey into the Light. He was raised in a very conservative Southern Baptist minister's home, However, he spent 25 years immersed in the homosexual lifestyle, and his story in and out is pretty amazing. It's very inspiring. Check out his website, georgecarneal.com. Okay, George, I want to ask a question, then come back and give you something I ran into that might be part of the answer. But the question is, when somebody of this lifestyle comes into our church and sits down, what should we do?
First of all, of course, go up and talk to them and just say hello and we welcome you. If I were a pastor, what I would do is I would go up to that LGBT individual, because one of the things I know that they're going to ask is that they're going to say, do you condemn homosexuality? And pastors need to be prepared for that question. And what I would say to that individual, at least this is what would comfort me, I would say to them, we do discuss the truth of God's word, and we don't condone homosexuality, but we are not here to condemn you. We're not going to mistreat you. We will call out sin, the sin of homosexuals and heterosexuals. They don't get a pass either. It will always be done with love. And know that when you come into this church, you have a safe place to come and hear God's word. We're not going to allow people to bully you, and you're not going to bully other people. This is going to be a safe space for all, but I will be preaching the truth of God's word. And when an LGBT individual is truly sitting under the pastor who is speaking the truth of God's word, not just God's love, but God's wrath and his judgment and the reality of sin and heaven and hell, the Holy Spirit will do a work in them. And I know for a fact how the Holy Spirit was really convicting me and working on me. And I know of 2 lesbians who were married, who went to a church where the pastor did just what I said and allowed them to come and just sit under the conviction of the Holy Spirit, and they were not only convicted, but they divorced, they gave their lives to Christ, and now they're in church. They're still friends, but they don't actively engage in that lifestyle. It's not our job to try to change these individuals. You have no idea the root core issues of what they've gone through, but they must be treated with respect and with love. And that doesn't mean you are affirming anything. It's no different than when Jesus confronted the woman who was caught in adultery. He didn't say, go and sin no more, you filthy whore. He wasn't rude and crude to her. He just said, go and sin no more. But Jesus really did call out sin, and that's what he wants us to do, to have a heart change and to repent. And if pastors will take that approach, you're always going to have some of the LGBT individuals who are just looking for trouble, and they're not interested in hearing the truth. But most and a lot of these individuals were raised in a church home. They want to love the Lord, but the dilemma, which was the dilemma for me, is how can I have a relationship with God if he condemns this, but yet I want to love and be loved, and God is not changing my feelings. And there's such a strong battle going on in a person's mind and with their emotions, but please be patient with them. God will do the work.
George, that is so beautifully said. Wow. Let me augment that by saying that I've worked with a couple of churches on issues that are as sensitive as this. And here's something they both instituted, and that was early on they sat down before any of this stuff would ever show up. They wrote white papers on their position and basically when it came to any sexual sin, even heterosexual sin and adultery and all the things, it was addressed in the white paper. And basically it said what you just said. We don't condone it, but here's what we offer to help you with this lifestyle. So that the church and the pastor and the elders all knew immediately what the position is. They weren't trying to define it during addressing the problem. They already defined what their response was going to be. It's part of the mandate, or so to speak, or the fundamentals or the framework of the church's philosophy. And it really takes away the risk factor of trying to decide how we're going to handle it when you're confronted with it. So that was a beautiful response, and I just want to say thank you. I think that's the way we need to rethink this based upon what you just said. The other pressure that a lot of pastors are under is to immediately, I say immediately, they deal with the possibility that these people are in transition from one lifestyle to the other, but they want to sing in the choir. They want to be a deacon, et cetera, et cetera. What do you say to that?
Well, you have to really be firm in that. And it's the same for heterosexuals, or whether it's, women who want to be pastors. God's word outlines all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be firm and lovingly explain what God's word says, and says, if after some time you've been here, if we are able to see how you conduct yourself, and if you know Jesus as your Savior, and you are as a representative of Christ, truly being obedient to God's word, gay or straight, male or female, we will then address when you want to do this. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with a gay person wanting to sing in the choir, but as far as a more important position like being a deacon, etc., there needs to be some time. Now, for me, I think I could do it because I've been out of the lifestyle for 18 years, and I wholeheartedly agree that it is an abomination and it is against God's design and against his will. But they need to be vetted. I'll just say it that way.
Let me ask you one other question before we get out of time here. Back to some of the fundamentals. Do you think that the medical community will ever be held responsible for what they're doing in this transition stuff?
Well, going back to your earlier question, that's another thing. As long as you have counselors, well, as long as this stuff is being pushed in the school system by the liberal teachers, and you've got counselors who are pushing them in that direction, and as long as there are doctors who are performing these surgeries, until they are made to be held responsible and lose their credentials and are imprisoned for long-term prison sentences, that's going to be the greatest deterrent. And I hope Trump will move beyond just defunding states, but he will actually criminalize these people.
Same as abortionists, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. Again, running out of time here. How do you think? It seems to me that everything as bad as all this has now been surfaced. It's in front of us now, and we seem to be pushing back, and yet the resistance of them pushing forward is still there. But it seems to be, if I can say they're losing, if I can put it that way, is being kicked out of the military. The whole DEI thing is amazing, absolutely amazing, across the board. And yet it's a tough battle, but it seems like it's being pushed back. What do you think?
Perry, I would say to you and your listeners, do not let your guard down. They may be silent, but they're still fighting, and they're not going to stop. Pedophilia will be legalized one day. They will continue with the trans ideology, and they're never going to back down until they silence all opposition to this agenda.
But what point does God step in?
The rapture. The tribulation. Perry, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not negative. I just have to be realistic. Unless, Perry, the bottom line is this: unless Christians as a whole in this nation, truly all of us humbling ourselves before God and saying we were wrong, we should never have we should not have let this get out of control. We should have been dictating to society versus society dictating to us these policies. We should have stood against it. We should have voted. We should have gotten into office. We should have gotten in touch with our representatives and been bulldogs in terms of making sure that none of this moved forward. And until we repent and apologize to God and ask him to intervene, I don't really see how it's going to change until the church repents, because the church is apathetic, lukewarm, and a lot of Christians and the pastors, they've sold out to the agenda. And I've seen it firsthand. This has been my frustration in trying to get into churches and to conferences, and especially get before the youth to warn them of the reality of that lifestyle before they decide to go down that path or support it. But I am met with resistance at every turn, and I'm silenced on so many social media platforms. I'm very frustrated with the whole thing.
We should have you back, because right now, it used to be the role of a youth pastor was car washes, barbecues, and volleyball. Okay, now they're actually dealing with this. Mm-hmm. They have students showing up in their youth group that are thinking about transitioning or lean towards LGBTQ. And are these youth pastors prepared for this?
I can tell you, I know of teachers, female teachers, who are telling me the number of the females teenagers in their classes who are being pressured by their female peers at school to experiment with lesbianism. And they don't want to, but the pressure is there. The conversation needs to be had. But in typical fashion, Perry, and not to be You know, a lot of Christians just want to stick their heads in the sand, look at the world through rose-colored glasses, sit around and hold hands, sing Kumbaya, wait for the rapture. Everything's going to be fine. There's nothing we can do about it. And they're just lazy and gutless, and they don't want to do anything about it. But the kids are the ones who are suffering. So if you know of people who can get people like me into before these children, I'd be happy to help where I can.
So it's kind of like whether it's with this issue or just in general, we've kind of lost our passion for evangelism. We don't see people as lost souls.
Yeah, Perry, the bottom line really is this. We have no fear of God anymore. That's my opinion. I think it's the lack of a fear of God and this, there's no such thing as hell. Everybody's good and we're all going to go to heaven. And for me, I think why I can be so bold about it is because I know the reality of hell. And my LGBT friends, I love and care about them immensely. And I take every opportunity I can to try to share with them about Jesus because I want them to come to know Christ. And people have just got to, if they think of things on that level, they will no longer be concerned with people being offended by the message of the gospel, but doing what God commands us to do. Stop worrying about offending people. Worry about offending God.
All right. Good to see you again, George. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your boldness. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out his website, georgecarneal.com. Check out his book, From Queer to Christ, My Journey into the Light. A great resource. But he's also a resource. Contact him through his website. If you need him to come talk, he's bold. He'll come and tell you. But he does it with immense empathy and love. Thank you, George. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you, Perry.
Hi, I'm the SOS Alarm guy, here to tell you about a great deal. SOS Alarm will not only beat any internet deal, but will install the system too. So burglars, beware. SOS Alarm for security and beyond.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
The Dove is encouraging and informative. Here's what our viewers are saying.
I watch you every day. Keep doing what you are doing. God bless all that you do.
Thank you for each of you for what you do in the name of the Lord. You are a blessing.
Sending love and blessings to the Dove. We are so thrilled to have you in our lives.
Thanks for sharing your encouragement. We appreciate it and love to hear from our viewers. You can support the Dove at theDove.us. Thank you.
Well, welcome back. Wow, what an honor. I've been looking forward to our special guest today, Dr. Josh McConkey. He's the Air Force Colonel, a combat physician, the author of an award-winning book and best-selling book entitled Be the Weight Behind the Spear. There's a picture of the cover of his book on the screen there. Colonel McConkey, military service includes providing critical medical support in both wartime and peacetime operations, with over 340 hours as a flight surgeon, 90 combat hours in rotor wing medical evacuation and air assault missions in the Middle East. He's a Air Medal, and a Army Commendation Medal recipient for exemplary service during Operation Iraq. Wow, a lot there. He does have a website, and it's the title of the book, Weight behindthespear.com, and there's the picture of the landing page. Wow, Colonel, good to see you. How are you, friend?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show this morning.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for your time. We value it greatly. Boy, a lot to talk to you about. Let me just ask you as a flight surgeon, this sounds political, but it's not. I think we're all deeply concerned. How did all of this health issue with President Biden get silenced?
That is a very good question that many Americans want answers to.
Yeah.
So when you see a diagnosis of advanced prostate cancer like this, so a stage 4 cancer with a Gleason score of 9, that generally will be 5 to 10 years in development. Now, only the president and his physician would know when those symptoms started to be exhibited. I have not examined the president. I have not physically looked at his medical record, but it's safe. I can assure you that this disease process started while he was president of the United States. And we have a lot of questions on, did that have some impact on his mental status, his cognitive decline? I think a lot of Americans want answers.
Medically speaking, can the diagnosis of an aggressive prostate cancer affect somebody's cognitive abilities?
When you have metastatic spread, so they've already said that there was spread to the bone. When you get spread to the brain, when it metastasizes to the brain, it could exhibit in these types of symptoms. Only him and his doctor know for sure if that's the case. I haven't been able to look at those medical records, but it's very concerning.
How would you otherwise explain his cognitive disabilities?
So I ran a congressional race in 2023, 2024. I lost in the primary, and I had talked pretty extensively about my concerns for his cognitive decline at that point. I'm a commander at Andrews Air Force Base in the reserves. I do know some colleagues that have flown with President Biden while he was president, and they have some very disturbing stories of him walking down those air stairs and just wandering off on the tarmac when the limousine was clearly right in front of him, and they had to kind of shepherd him over there. So there were clearly concerns over the last several years. I think hiding that and shielding that from the American people was very detrimental to our national security, and we're just now getting answers.
Is it worth investigating, or do we just feel sorry for him and let him walk off to the sunset?
When you are responsible for the nuclear football, for the most powerful country on planet Earth, we need those answers. And we need to know, just for the simple fact that we don't want something like that repeated again. Mm-hmm. It clearly has national security implications. And, I'm not sure who's responsible for investigating that. The book that was just released, I have not got a chance to read yet. It's the CNN anchor. There's a lot of probably some answers in there. I have not had the chance to read it yet.
Okay. Sticking with some military changes, it looks like the Department of Defense is slowly being de-woked. What do you think?
Oh, I'm so happy with the changes that Pete Hegseth and President Trump have made. As a military commander, our job is to unleash air power. As an Air Force, I'm a flight surgeon, I'm a commander. Our job to, when called upon, deliver lethal force. It's a difficult job. It's a job that we don't want to do, but when called upon for our national security and the defense of this nation, we will do that. When you change the focus of our military from that singular focus of delivering lethality to a lot of that DEI and the woke agenda and that time and money that had been invested, as a military commander, there were huge parts of my time that were devoted to those things that I didn't necessarily agree with, but we do have civilian-led leadership. I'm very thankful with our current administration changing that direction.
So how deeply infiltrated was this into the military?
I had seen a lot of senior level, when you talk about some general positions and senior level leadership, they were clearly filling quotas. I probably stopped short of saying whether they were qualified or not, but the focus of filling a lot of positions was not on that meritocracy. It was not based on who's the best person for the job. It was to fill quotas and to fill some DEI initiatives. I just feel that it was anti-American, and it was really against what we stand for in the military, regardless of where you come from, color, creed, any of those, it's based on your what you bring to the table, your professionalism. And when you start changing those metrics and, start injecting some of the DEI metrics in there, it really takes away from what we do as a military.
So you as a flight surgeon, I guess you were limited to what the brass allowed, right?
Yeah, so especially as a commander, we have civilian-led leadership of our military. I believe in that. That's constitutional, and I support the Constitution of the United States. I had a lot of concerns with the directions that they were taking. And when I use one example, we had done a large military exercise in the Pacific Northwest in 2023. It was a U.S. Transportation Command exercise where, if something were to happen in the Pacific, obviously concerned with China and Taiwan, how are we going to evacuate those casualties? It involved the U.S. Medical Disaster Team, Department of Defense, the VA, and all the civilian hospitals. I did an interview on NBC. The night before the interview, the Biden administration gave me 4 pages of things I could not talk about on air. I could not say the word China. So it was embarrassing, to be quite honest. The very first question that the anchor asks is, of course, is this exercise in response to Chinese aggression in Taiwan, which I could not say the word China, and there was a canned response that they had us, articulate. But, when you're more concerned about upsetting China than preparing and defending this nation, for potential conflict, I do not agree with that. And I think 76 million other people had that concern as well, and that's why Trump's in office.
Gosh, how did you wrestle this in your soul, in your faith?
My faith has carried me through all of my military service. In 2007, in Iraq, flying medevac missions, I did 1 air assault. I would not have survived mentally without my faith. My chaplain, I'll give a shout out to Jim Higgins, was a big part of that, and he was able to come to my assumption of command speech that I gave in 2022 in August. So it was great to see him there. But that faith has carried me through everything. And at times, it was difficult as a military commander, but we do have civilian-led leadership, and I support the Constitution.
Thank you. One other quick question before I move on. As you look back on Iraq and our exit, how do you process that?
Very, very difficult. So when you see men and women paying that ultimate sacrifice, I carried those body bags off of helicopters. I took care of those men and women. I had always told myself that we were in there for the long haul. It was very strategic. The air base in Balad alone, keeping that check on Iran. And then in 2011, when Obama just pulled us out of there, I had you see those repeat from Vietnam. It's like our civilian leadership just continues to make the same mistakes. And for all the men and women that I saw die over there, I know we were there for each other and for our nation. But when you saw everything pulled out and then the complete debacle in Afghanistan, it really leads you to question, some of the leadership and some of those decisions. And it really had a large part to play in why I decided to run for Congress and now Lieutenant Governor here in North Carolina.
Oh, you're running for Lieutenant Governor?
Yes, sir.
Our prayers with you, buddy. You think war is bad? Wait till you get into politics. Okay. Wow. Wow. Thank you for your service. This is amazing. What do you mean by the weight behind the spear?
So for me, that's been my personal leadership ethos. I've got a chance to work with special operations. I was medical director for PJs that do combat search and rescue. And you realize that these are true heroes. They do things that no one else on the planet can do. That's the tip of the spear. I don't jump out of airplanes. I don't take down bin Laden. I save lives. I don't take lives as a physician. But I can be the weight behind the spear for the men and women that do those things. And that's our best resource that we have in this country. It's coaches, volunteers, teachers, and families. That is what sets us apart. That is what China fears. That is what Russia fears, is that resource that we have in our people. And so you can be the weight behind your community volunteer in your church, your school, go coach Little League. Those things make a huge difference and give confidence to our children, and they're going to be our next generation of leaders.
That's so well said. That is so well said. Thank you for that, because I think there is a genuine hunger for this now, don't you think? I mean, can you feel the shift in the culture saying, enough of the nonsense, let's get back to serving one another?
Yes, and that's really the whole message of the book. Regardless of which side of the fence that you're on politically, we all can agree that our future is in our children, and we need them to be successful. We need them to have leadership skills and resiliency and that faith to carry them through difficult times. That's really the whole focus of the book.
Good for you. How would you apply this to, say, business leaders?
Boy, business leaders, they oftentimes don't realize that this is their problem until they go to hire these kids. So these kids are coming out of high school, they're coming out of college. It is your problem. And the amount of time that you have to spend on teaching those basics, the simple like leadership, accountability, ownership in whatever organization that they're working in, you are not going to be successful as a business leader until they are up to speed. So the earlier you get involved, get out there and volunteer in your church or your school or coach. It is going to be your problem because they're coming to you looking for jobs eventually.
All right. Let me take a quick break. Check out Dr. Josh McConaughey's book called Weight Behind the Spear. That's also the website, weightbehindthespear.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Rise Direct Primary Care. Imagine a healthcare experience where you're known by name, cared for like family, and treated with compassion. How is that possible? With an affordable, flat monthly membership, you receive unlimited primary care and minor urgent care visits. No insurance needed. At Rise Direct Primary Care, we offer a friendly, affordable healthcare experience where you get a whole hour with your provider. Located in Central Medford and accessible by phone or text, we can typically get you in the same or next day. We prescribe urgent care medications directly from our office, saving you a trip and wait time at the pharmacy when you'd rather be at home getting better. Personalized medical care with a human touch. Rise Direct Primary Care is all about healing the sick with compassion and keeping the healthy healthy. Rise Direct Primary Care. We're here for you. Visit risehealthdpc.com or call or text us 541-827-8603. 541-827-8603.
Put your gold in an envelope, mail it. Hopefully you get a check. No. Father and son jewelry, bring your gold in. We weigh it, we check it, we make you the offer.
Or turn your something old into something new. Whether it's an idea, a picture, or a piece you want to duplicate, we can melt it down and make it for you.
And if you find your perfect piece in store, trade your something old for something new, and you always get a little extra.
Visit Father and Son Jewelry, 5 generations of family in Medford. Tackling the tough issues facing America and our nation's freedom. That's Sekalo on the Dove TV.
DAs around the country finding who they want to prosecute.
A bold half hour hosted by ACLJ's Jordan and Logan Sekalo, taking you inside the battle of constitutional and political freedom, discussing issues that matter to you and your family.
No one that should or want to run for president will end up running for president.
Be in the know with Sekalo on the Dove TV.
Welcome back. It's such an honor to have with us Dr. Josh McConaughey. He's the Air Force colonel and combat physician. He has a book entitled, and it's an award-winning book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. There is the cover, picture of the cover of the book on the screen there. And that's also the website, weightbehindthespear.com. You can go there and check it all out. Dr. McConaughey, with all the changes going on with this administration, I know this sounds political, but it is kind of interesting to me that it looks like enlistment's an all-time high. Are you hearing that?
It's been a monumental shift. And it's pretty common sense, but when you focus on abilities and professionalism and just doing the job of being in the military, I think a lot of men and women want to serve in a military that focuses on just that. And so you saw an immediate shift in December alone, right after the November election. 120, 130% of quotas being met. We had seen a very sharp decline in recruiting during the last years of the Biden administration for those obvious reasons. And now we have an administration that really supports our mission and what we're about in the military, and it's about defending the nation, not DEI.
Good for
and
you.
so those recruiting numbers have shot up tremendously. It's been great.
So, gosh, there's so much here. As a physician and member of the military, how bad was COVID from your perspective?
Boy, COVID, if you put it in the most simplest terms, almost sucked your will to live. As a physician, seeing just you saw the changes and the bad policy decisions made by, the certain governments, depending which state you were in, that had no scientific basis whatsoever, from the 6 feet of distancing to the paper masks to, just the death and a lot of destruction. I saw a lot of families torn apart. And then when you saw people, what was really disturbing for me as a physician is when you see people on their deathbed and all they want to have there with them is their family or their pastor or those priests, just those very basic, fundamental things that I think every human being has a right to, they were denied. And so people were literally just dying completely by themselves without any family. And that, that was really hard to watch as a physician. It was very strange times, and I hope it's something that we never return to.
Wow. What's your take on the vaccine?
The vaccine, so I'm a physician and I support vaccines. We have great vaccines when you talk with combating polio and yellow fever. This vaccine in particular, I had concerns with. The research was not there yet. It is a new technology, those mRNA vaccines. I wanted to see more transparency in our government, and I just want them to be honest. If they had come right out the gate and said, look, this is new technology, this may or may not, prevent the spread of the disease. When they came out and just flat out lied and said, listen, this is going to prevent the spread of the disease. We want you to immunize everybody, children, adults, young adults. The people that had the risks were the ones that should have been, assuming the risk of the vaccine. So when you were exposing a lot of children to this vaccine, you have to be honest with parents. Tell them, listen, it may or may not prevent the spread of the vaccine. And when you look at some of the risks for the very young and healthy children, it's, there were some, children that had medical conditions that were higher risk, and there certainly were some deaths in those populations. But on the whole, I don't think the risks of the vaccine were outweighed by the risks of the disease in that younger population. And you have to let people make that decision. When you tell people that they have to inject this foreign substance into their body, or you're going to remove the ability to put food on the table for their family, was so un-American and so inappropriate. You have to let people make a choice. And if you haven't made that case to people and been open and honest and transparent, they just decide not to take that vaccine. That's their right. This is America.
Today, has the vaccine ever shook off the term experimental?
There's a very good argument that this vaccine, the COVID vaccine, it didn't prevent the spread of the disease. So if you look at it as just more of a therapeutic, certainly more experimental, but it just kind of raises the level of antibodies in the bloodstream, it doesn't prevent the spread of the disease. So there's a few questions that I think a lot of people have with that vaccine. And,
yeah,
I'm a doctor. I do promote vaccines. They're great things, but this one in particular I had concerns with.
Okay, to that point, one more question, and that is there substance to now post-reaction to the vaccine several years out? We're hearing various reports that people are having heightened problems because of the vaccine. Any truth to any of that?
Well, I haven't got to see, there hasn't been the transparency. I want to see the actual studies and those reports. Mm-hmm. But there are definitely, everyone's familiar with the long COVID, the inability to smell. There's been neurologic issues. We saw definitely some short-term and long-term effects from the vaccine itself. in the U.S. and in Australia, I was in Australia in 2021. There was one of the vaccines that had really high rates of stroke, blood clotting, and some bleeding that they really couldn't attribute to anything other than just the vaccine itself. And there's some of the cardiac issues, and then the more short term when you had myocarditis, pericarditis, some inflammation and things around the heart, and some unusual like neurologic things. I haven't seen a real sharp study that the government has released kind of showing and documenting that yet. I think there needs to be more transparency, and I know it's something that this current administration is working on.
It's a little bit hypothetical, I guess, Doctor, but if this is hypothetical, but if another COVID-type pandemic was to break out, how do we trust our government now?
And that's where my concern with the public health is. When you had something like this COVID vaccine and you weren't completely honest and transparent, you have fueled that distrust in our government. And there's up to, when you look at the Gen Z, I call them the COVID generation, the last half of Gen Z, almost 70% of them have a pretty large distrust in their government institutions because of what happened during COVID, shutting down their entire lives, their school, their churches. So we can't let that happen again. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for lieutenant governor right now, is the next sniffle, the next bird flu, the next thing that comes along. We cannot have an administration that's going to support shutting down our businesses and our schools and our churches again. We can't have that repeat in history.
Yeah, even if there was an attempt to do it, it seemed like there would be such civil unrest we almost couldn't handle it.
Oh, I hope so. And I saw the extreme side of that 1 year I spent in Australia, where I saw them shut down an apartment complex in Melbourne for 111 days. And then I watched them, actually the secret police locked down a grocery store in Adelaide to force people to check into the contact tracing app, which was then used for the GPS facial recognition on that. They were threatening to throw people in jail if you didn't scan your face. They would tell you that there was an exposure, and they wouldn't tell you who, when, or where the exposure was, but now you scan your face and they've got the GPS tracking. And if you were more than 50 meters from where they told you to be, there was just arrests, but no questions asked. So very, very strange. That can never happen in the United States.
Yeah, I have friends in Australia, same report, so it's valid. Let me ask you this. To that point of young people distrust, and to your point of your book, The Weight Behind the Spear, how can we reach that generation? They're looking for something, they're looking for the truth when they've been lied to.
Yeah.
How do we touch them, Coach?
That's a great question. We have to do this the old-fashioned way, face to face. Human beings and humanity for thousands of years, we communicate. It's face to face. Social media has pluses and minuses. It does not change the fact that we need to have time together. So your family, your friends, your colleagues, that weight behind your spear, that's the best resource we have in this country. We have to get out there and coaching and volunteering, going out to your community shelters, your animal shelters. Everyone has something different to give, but it has to be face to face, and to win this generation back and help them be successful.
All right, the book is entitled The Weight Behind the Spear. That's also the website, weightbehindthespear.com. A picture of the book, and there's the landing page. Tell us about your race. So you're running for lieutenant governor. Do you have a campaign website?
Well, right now it's Stronger, so we are stronger together. StrongerNC.com for that website. And then obviously more with the book, with Weight Behind the Spear. And we've got a lot of work to do here in North Carolina, and it's a team sport, so I need everybody.
So when's your primary?
So this race is not until 2028. So we have a lot of time. Oh. We have our midterm elections. But for me, my congressional race that I ran in 2023 and 2024, I was outspent by $12 million. My dad's a railroader. I don't have that kind of money. So I have to do this the old-fashioned way and actually get out there and talk with people and campaign.
Good. How's it going?
Going very well so far.
Good. So North Carolina, how's it been since the hurricane?
So Western North Carolina. So I've actually started a nonprofit organization, the Weight Behind the Spear Foundation for Western North Carolina. Hurricane Helene brought just devastation, biblical, and sometimes that's out of people's minds. So we really appreciate the help and the support. If you go to weightbehindthespear.com/foundation, you can donate. And we're working a lot with Samaritan's Purse right now to help rebuild Western North Carolina.
Isn't it interesting? FEMA just failed completely over there, but you got people like, Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse that are making a huge difference. And they haven't abandoned. They're still there. In fact, they're increasing their operation.
So I'm actually meeting with them next week, as a matter of fact. So they're doing wonderful work in Western North Carolina, as they do to a lot of areas across the country and the world. It's a wonderful organization. And, we are stronger together. The government is not going to save us. That's why when you see FEMA and you see these continual failures, that has to be you. You need to get out there in your community. It's always about the community and the people around you and your faith.
Doctor, thank you. You're an inspiration. Check out his website, weightbehindthespear.com. Check out the book, The Weight Behind the Spear, and you'll find it to be very inspiring. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your passion. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you. God bless.
Go where the wild runs deep. At Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, you feel the power of the mighty Rogue River as you take in the sights and sounds of nature, journey through Hellgate Canyon, and adventure through the breathtaking wilderness. Enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, and end your adventure with our exciting jetboat spins. It's a memory in the making with family and friends. Book your adventure at Hellgate.com. Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
Big ideas grow.
Washington Watch with Tony Perkins. Every weeknight covering current events, issues of faith, family, and freedom. Tony is president of the FRC and your leading source for what's really happening in our nation's capital. Weeknights on the Dove TV.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Catholic Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians.
Watch Christian World News weeknights at 5:30 on the Dove TV.
Be encouraged. Be informed. Join us weekdays for Mornings on the Dove.
Right here on the Dove TV.
Thank you for